Well, welcome everybody. Special shout out to my friend and guest, Mandy, who's joined us tonight. We'll get to say hi to her in just a little bit. So welcome, it's great to see everybody. And just for the newer folks, I'm gonna do a little short introduction tonight because this is my first meeting as president of this club. And so I'm following in very big footsteps of Kathy Triolo, who was president for 2 years. So just want to say a couple of things about the past board, and I want to introduce the incoming board so folks know who they are. And as you noted, Kathy reminded me, we are recording. So the idea is record these meetings and then we'll post them on the club's YouTube channel. So you can go back and watch them, and folks who couldn't attend can go back and watch them. So it's been working pretty well. So a little bit, very little bit about me. I'm tickled to be the president. This is just such a phenomenal club. We had an awards celebration on Saturday night where we gave out the best of awards for last year, the best images. And I'll show you those after the intermission tonight so you can see those and celebrate with the winners. But the folks here in this club, I think, are just extraordinary. It's all about supporting each other and growing as photographers. And people are so open and willing to help one another. And in fact, just today, Rick was helping me with an image. So thank you, Rick. And it's just a great place to be, whether you're a new photographer and you want to learn and grow, or whether you're a pro, because I tell you what, you never know everything there is to know about photography. So it just keeps going through your whole life. There's always something new to learn. So a very little bit about me. Happy to be here. I've been in the club about 3 years, maybe 4, but not that long. And in my career, I was an engineer in the oil fields of West Texas, hard hat and steel-toed boots and the whole thing. Happy not to ever do that again. And then spent a very long time with my friend Mandy in the community college system. And she and I worked together at Sierra College. So, but retired, woohoo. So it's been 4 years this month, shockingly. And let me tell you, retirement is awesome in capital letters. And I'm now doing photography all day, every day, as often as I can. So happy to be here with you guys, and was willing to step up and work with this group because it's such a fantastic board and group of people. And I wanted just to say a little bit about the past outgoing board, which was Kathy Triolo, who was president, woohoo, for 2 years. I was the vice president. Mike Shea was the treasurer, and he's going to continue in that role. And Laura Greenman was our secretary, just did a phenomenal job. So quick hand for them, please. You do your little hand icons. They did a phenomenal job. And just as an idea, just over the last 2 years, they started the Gold Country on-camera challenge, where we got the squares of the city of Grass Valley in Nevada City and had to shoot in 48 hours. We got the gallery location secured with Nevada City picture framing. So we now have a place to mount and show our work. We've got Facebook group. We have a Facebook members only and a public Facebook group and Instagram. And I will say we've gotten pretty darn good at Zoom too. Who knew, right? So there's been a lot of forward motion, and my goal is just to keep that going. So with our incoming board and our program chairs. But I just wanted to spend a minute. I have a list here I want to show you of just who the folks are in this club as we go forward this year. So if you have questions, you'll know who they are and who to reach out to. So I'm going to share my screen for just a minute. It's just one page. And all right, can folks see that? Can somebody say yes?
Yes.
Okay. So the incoming board, there's 4 elected positions, which are president, vice president, treasurer, and secretary, and those were voted on last fall. And so that's myself. Kathy is now vice president, so we've swapped positions. Mike Shea is continuing as treasurer, and we have a new secretary, Dave Connell. So thank you, Dave, for serving in that role. And there's a 2-year limitation on these roles. That's why you see some people are the same and some are different. And our past president, Kathy, becomes past president as well. So she's VP, past president, and program chair. So you owe her a special thank you. And so then we have these 3 committees. Hey, you deserve it, man. We have 3 committees. And so we have the membership committee headed by Mark Triolo. So newer folks, that's the person you connect with is Mark, and he'll talk to you in just a little bit. Program chair, which is the person who finds the speakers for each month. Kathy's now taken on that role. And publicity, doing social media, articles in the newspaper, that's under Ellen Davis. So thank you to them, and they're continuing in those roles for 2021. But then there's just a whole host of people that you may not know how much they do for the club because they work kind of quietly. Most of these folks do attend board meetings. Everyone's welcome to attend a board meeting. When we were in person, we had the audio systems. That was Peter Mason. Hopefully we will need his skills this year when we're back meeting in person, I hope. Video systems and the website, Dave Arstein. We talked a lot about Dave on Saturday, but I'm going to reiterate, Dave is the heart and soul of this club and is the back end of this website that we do. And I cannot thank him enough for how much work that he does. Field trip coordinator, Bill Wages. Thank you, Bill. And we're going to give him a chance to talk in just a little bit. This club has just done phenomenal field trips. I mean, before COVID, we were doing what, 1 a month? You know, it's a little slower now, but hopefully we will get back to that. Refreshments, again, these guys haven't been very busy on Zoom. It's bring your own refreshments. But again, once we get back to this, is Mike Shea and Barbara Summers. Workshops, Douglas Hooper. We have a big workshop every November, day-long training for everybody. There's a newsletter that goes out, and that's headed up by Kathy Triolo. So Kathy will wants any great information that you want to share with folks, awards you've won, and she will include that in the newsletter. And then new this year, I've just added them today, is we have the gallery show coordinators. So fabulous. This is these folks, Dave McClellan and Ellen Davis, do a fabulous job doing a call for images. And I'm going to let them talk about that in just a little bit. So really, really proud to have that aspect to our club. Okay, and these names, if you don't need to remember them, there won't be a quiz or anything like that. All of these names will be on the club's website. So if you want to come back to that and want to know who to talk to, they'll be on the website. Okay. All right, just a few announcements on my behalf. So one that everybody needs to know about is we have the second half of every meeting is the critique, where we have 2 judges that look at the members' images and do a critique on them. Each member can submit 2 images total in 13 categories. And we have a document on the website of photo categories, so you can take a look at those if you want to. But the board made a few small changes, but they're important in those categories. So just really quickly, in the intro, we changed the work that if you submit an image, the expectation is it is your own work, including post-processing. And then also we had a category that was creative, anything goes. And people were struggling with, because images were so different. For example, if you paste a head on in a family or a group shot versus doing something really, really super creative, a cow jumping over the moon, say, it's hard to judge between those types of images. So we split that category into 2. So we have a creative fantasy, anything goes. So cow jumping over the moon, that's your category. Anything that's not supposed to look real and you would know it's not real, but it's very creative. Second category is manipulated but realistic. So you've had to do a sky replacement. You've had to add someone into a group photo or paste on a face or an arm or a leg. I've seen that done. So, but the idea is it is supposed to look realistic. So now you've got an option and a place to put those images. So you'll see those as you submit your images in the drop-down menu on the web each month. So just FYI on that. We also did remove what was category 14, which was not critiqued. We added that, what, a couple of years ago? Folks asked for that. We added it. Last year, there was 1 single image for the whole year entered into that category. So we eliminated that category. All right, one more small one. being new in this role, I've kind of created some of my own processes, which means I created my own distribution list for all the club members. So if you hear of somebody not getting an email, like today, I heard from John Hart, got an issue, we're going to work on that. Anybody who's not getting the emails, or you're getting two, that's happened too, please just send me a short email and I will correct my master list just to make sure everybody gets the info. Okay, everybody okay? And FY, for those who know David Wong, he can't be here tonight, had a little issue at his house today in the storm. So it's too bad. He didn't want folks to know he would have been here if he could have been. All right, and with that, I'm going to turn it over to Mike Shea. Is he here? Anybody see Mike?
Yeah, hi.
Hey, I know you've got a couple of things that you want the club members to know as our treasurer.
Right. So as the bylaws of the club say, the treasurer is supposed to provide an annual report to membership. So really quickly, when we started the year, we had a balance of $3,729.45. Our membership dues for the year were $4,315 even. So, yeah, that's a pretty nice little chunk of change for membership dues. Our expenses were $3,742.26, leaving us with an ending balance of $4,902.19. So, we're very healthy financially. And I want to also point out that none of the board members, none of the volunteers that do all this work, none of them are paid. So all the staff time is volunteer time. And the only other thing I wanted to do is we added an option to pay your dues via PayPal if you'd like. And you can still pay it by check, no problem with that. The PayPal option, we have to charge a little bit more because PayPal charges fees. So an individual membership is $37 and a family membership is $47. So it's $2 more than you would pay if you paid by check. And there is a link on the club's website. So if you sign into the club's website, you will see the link to pay by PayPal. Or if you have a PayPal account, you can do it outside of the club's website. That's not a problem. But I wanted to just say a couple of things about this. If you have the option, pick that you're making a personal payment rather than paying for a good or service. So you want to pick just a personal payment. The other thing is if you're paying through your company's website, there's an option to put a note in there. Tell me who you are, because I've had a couple of people pay via their company's website, and I don't know, I don't know who they are. So do that. And also, if you pay a family membership and your family member has a different name, please put that in the notes section. So that's it for me. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mike. All right. Next up, how about Mark for membership?
Good evening, everyone. Hope everybody's doing well. We've got a handful of new members I'd like to announce and see if they're present with us tonight. First one is Deborah Davis. So when I call your name, if you're here, if you could just press and hold the space bar and let us know verbally that you are here. Deborah, are you with us?
Doesn't look like it.
Okay. Michael Quinn.
Oh.
He was gonna be with us tonight. Okay, not Paul Schmidt.
Yeah, Michael, I thought was going to join us, but I don't see him on. So
I didn't either. Yeah.
These young people, you just can't track them.
Is Paul Schmidt with us tonight?
No.
Okay. How about Sherry Tucker
No.
and Kirk Keeler?
No.
How about Fred Finney?
Yes.
Who's here?
He's here earlier. Yes, he's here.
Fred, are you here?
He's muted.
Sorry, it's my second time, actually.
Okay. Did we have you introduce yourself last time?
I think so, yep. I'm a not so new, a kind of new member still.
Okay, good. Well, welcome to the organization. I think we did catch you last month. I just neglected to take you off of my list. And lastly, we have a member who was a prior member who rejoined, Perry Parkhurst. I don't think Perry's with us tonight.
No.
I don't see him.
Okay. Okay, good. Well, you can see that's kind of a healthy list. So we're still taking on new members. We're still re-signing everyone in terms of renewed dues. But we're still taking on new members, so that's a great sign. Let's see, I think we have at least one guest tonight. Mandy, are there any other guests with us tonight? If so, could you raise your hand, kind of like that?
I can
Oh,
also raise my hand virtually.
Who was that?
Dan.
Dan Davis. Yeah, I'm Mark Davis's son, and I was a friend of Jeff's, in high school, and then also I think our moms were in a new moms group, so we're very similar in age. And
Yes,
I,
I did the same.
yeah, yeah, you too. I've heard you've done some cool stuff, and I wanted to hear a little bit more about it.
Cool.
Great, thanks for being with us. And Mandy, thank you for being with us also.
Mandy, do you want to say hi or welcome you?
Yeah, thank you. I'm glad to be your interloper, and Rachel has shared so much about the club and asked if I wanted to join you this evening. So I was super excited to be able to do that. So I appreciate being here. Looking forward to it very much.
Glad you're here.
Thanks for being with us. So if the two of you or anyone else who's watching tonight has questions about the organization, what do we do? How do we do it? How do you do this? How do you do that? What's on the website? Or if you'd like to join, and the website is a place to join. Everything is there, the application and so forth. But if you're having any trouble with any of that, or would just like to talk about the club, you can contact me through the website. My number and email are on there, and I'd be happy to check in with you. So Rachel, back to you. Thanks very much. Everybody enjoy the evening.
Thank you, Mark. It's great. New members and guests. It's awesome. All right, welcome everybody. All right, so next up, how about field trips? Bill Wages.
Hello, everyone. Well, kind of right now, field trips are kind of on hold just because of everything going on. I know at the last board meeting, we kind of talked about maybe doing some informal meetups on occasion. If somebody would like to go out and they're going out somewhere, we can maybe use the Google chat group or something and let people know they're going out, and maybe somebody can meet up with them or something like that. It would have to be pretty informal, but for right now, everything's kind of on hold. So.
Okay. All right, so and just as a general, to echo what Bill's saying, what the board's hoping is this group, if you're going to go out and shoot cranes or go up north, let the club know, and maybe you might have some members join you. So just as an informal meetup kind of thing. All right, so last one that I know has announcements is the gallery show coordinators, Dave McClellan and Ellen Davis.
All right. So Melissa, who's the owner of the Nevada City Picture Framing, she has been very generous with her space, and she's allowed us to hang shows in her shop for most of this coming year. So currently the Fall Colors show is up. It'll be up through February 9th. The next show, Red, it's already been juried out, and that's we're gonna install that on the 11th. Dave and I are going to plan out the next 3 shows here fairly soon, such as like themes and dates, but all 3 shows are going to run for 10 weeks each, and they will also be juried. But we've planned for we plan for 10 weeks because that gives us plenty of time to plan, and it can still fit in the Gold Country Challenge on Camera show in the fall. And if you've never submitted to shows before, I really want to encourage you to do that, because it's a really good, easy learning opportunity to do that. And submitting into shows, it's a really great opportunity for you to get your work printed, to see what it looks, get it out of your computer and out into the world. And it's very. And it also can really create other opportunities for you if you get used to the process of submitting to shows, and you submit to larger shows or other shows, and then that can spark other opportunities for you. I submitted a photograph to a show in San Francisco, and that sparked a cascade of opportunities that I'm still cruising along with. It's really good to make friends and other connections. And Melissa's shop, she says she does get a lot of people coming in, people that have just moved to the area, and people from the Bay Area, and they're looking to fill their homes with artwork. And she's gotten a lot of really positive comments on the show, the work that's up right now. So submit, kids.
Okay, thank you. All right, so I'm gonna say any other announcements? Folks have something they want to share with the group? No? All is quiet. Okay, all right. So
I'd like to just once again thank you for the banquet that you did Saturday. All the work that went to it, and it was fantastic.
Oh, that's
The
very nice.
pictures were fantastic.
It was a fun time, given it was online and all. Thanks.
Yes.
Online, wait, I went to the Willow. Where were you?
It was fun. So thanks for the acknowledgement. So, all right. So with that, that's all the announcements that we have. So now I'm going to turn it over to Kathy for the presentation, and bear with us on the technical details. Is Kathy, I can make Jeff a co-host, but I cannot make you a co-host. Don't ask me why.
That is so strange.
It's bizarre. So do you want me to use the multiple participants?
Yes, because
Or I can make you host. That's the other choice.
yeah, well, no, don't make me a host.
Okay.
Just allow multiple participants to share. The
Okay.
only thing I can't do is I can't help you mute.
Okay, well, I'm going to be what I'm going to be
You're on your own.
Okay.
Yeah, but I'll need to share later. So thank
Okay.
you. That's
All right.
great. All righty. Woohoo. Hi, everybody. Here I am in my new role. Please be kind. All right. Tonight, we're going to be hearing from Jeff Litton. He's on my screen. He's down here in the corner. And he's waving too. And Jeff is a National Geographic educator and a certified photo instructor. He's excited to share with us tonight stories, photos, and short films from a decade of working in conservation. So he's been working on National Geographic and Lindblad expedition ships since 2009, where he's worked as a naturalist, certified photo instructor, expedition filmmaker, tour leader, and undersea specialist. Incredible resume. These travels have taken Jeff from Alaska to Antarctica, from Egypt to Easter Island. Jeff has had 10 films in the Wild and Scenic Festival, and his works have been in National Geographic magazine, woot woot, and on National Geographic Channel. That's a pretty amazing resume there. Tonight, he's going to be talking to us about using our lens to advocate wilderness. And it's about the stories we tell and why. So he says that this presentation will help us become better storytellers using both photography and videography. And with that, I am very pleased to present Jeff Litton.
Great. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate the intro, Kathy. So hello, everybody. My name is Jeff Litton, and born and raised here in Nevada County. And let me go ahead and start sharing my screen here. First, I'll pull up the keynote, and then I'll do the share screen. Okay, that's ready. Great. So here we go. And keynote. Ooh, allow, yes. So I'm from here in Grass Valley, and sorry, it's asking me to jump into settings to allow it to share the screen.
Do you need help, Jeff?
You know what? So it's asking open system preference. Oh, security and privacy. That's what I was looking for. Okay, so. Sorry about this, you guys.
Okay.
It's okay.
Security and privacy. Here we are. And
You should just be able to share a screen without going through.
I know. I thought I had done it previously, but I guess I had done that previously on another machine. quick.
If you have a Mac, you have to go in and do some security checks.
Yeah.
Oh, thanks, Ann.
You are right. So, oh wait, it's not under screen recording.
And
Okay.
There it is.
Okay, great. Sorry for the delay. Okay, great. So I'm from here, from Grass Valley, born and raised. And here's a picture of me at 1 year old getting handed up a mountain. And so I've always kind of been immersed in adventure. My mom, she was a real explorer. She climbed Mount McKinley when she was my age. And now all I do is go on people's vacations. So I hardly feel like I'm half the explorer she is. But you know, what a beautiful place here in California to grow up. And we went through Boy Scouts, and Dan Davis, my buddy, we went on a great adventure together, going canoeing. We did 160 miles canoeing in Boundary Waters, northern Minnesota, across the border into Canada, and canoed for 10 days. So, you know, we did a lot of these kinds of adventures. And so not only did I get the travel bug, but also too, from the great support in the community for film and video production. Big thanks to Craig Rorson. You know, I went through the high school, and through there, I didn't study photography, but I studied communications and film and video. And we had a great opportunity to work with NCTV. And so every day for about an hour or more, we were working at the TV station and working on projects. And Craig was really, really helpful during those times. And so I left Grass Valley, and then I went to Brooks Institute of Photography. And then from there, you know, I realized, okay, so I want to be doing film and photography, but I didn't exactly know what. All I knew is that I wanted to be as far away from Hollywood as possible. And so then it was at the Circle Wild and Scenic Film Festival. That was where I saw, oh, wow, environmental films. That's amazing. And so that was kind of what gave me the idea to do, to follow that passion into conservation. And so, so I started chasing adventure. When I graduated Brooks, all I knew was that I wanted to be an expedition filmmaker working on ships, and I didn't even really know what that meant. And then I found out about Lindblad Expeditions, and through there, I was able to get a job as the expedition filmmaker. And right up front, underneath this giant wall of water, you can see me holding a camera bag. And so my job was to go on these trips and to shoot and edit a 30-minute documentary every 7 days. And it was a huge amount of work, but it was great. And so the first place that I started working was Galapagos. And so here's Galapagos. It's usually quite tame, but certainly not always. And so here's an example where, you know, sometimes you just had to be ready for adventure. But it's an extraordinary place. The animals, you may have heard that they're fearless. This is because Galapagos formed the same way that Hawaii formed, you know, these volcanic islands in the middle of nowhere. And a lot of the predators, mammalian predators, especially, never made it to the islands. And so a lot of the animals never acquired the fear of other animals. And so for that reason, they'll just come right up to you. And usually the biggest complaint from photographers is that the animals are too close to focus. And so, you know, here I was immersed in this, you know, really beautiful landscape with amazing animals, and it really opened my eyes to nature. You know, even things like this hawk. So, you know, the hawks would just come right up to you, and it actually even hopped a little bit closer than this. But, you know, just amazing how close you can get to animals there. And so I highly recommend going to Galapagos. And we have a lot of fun too. You know, so here I am, you know, on the ground trying to take a picture. You can see there's a tortoise over on the left, and then this is my colleague pouring water on my back. And so, you know, not only was it immersed in the adventure, but also immersed in you know, a place where we could have a lot of fun and have great laughs. And it really opened my eyes to kind of the connection with nature. And there are there are beautiful opportunities for snorkeling. And so I quickly, I continue to fall deeper in love with underwater photography. And at this one spot where we were on this particular day, I handed my camera over to my friend to take a picture of me because at this one place, one of my favorite places on the planet, Punta Vicente Roca, it's a particular place where sea turtles like to hang out. And this particular day, from this one position where I was, I had turned around and just counted the sea turtles that were right around me, the ones that I could just count and see in view, and there were 23 sea turtles. And if any of you know much about sea turtles, the one thing that almost everyone knows is that they're really rare and they're really endangered for a handful of reasons. One being that people eat the eggs, and the other that they get caught in fishing gear. But here is still a place where they still have a really strong hold on their population, and so they're doing quite well there. And the marine life in Galapagos is just fantastic, and so I continued to fall deeper in love with photography and film. You can see the one jumping above is probably the adult of that baby that's jumping there. So it was kind of cute to see a baby jumping up in the air. And all sorts of other creatures that I had never hung out with, like spotted eagle rays, and they would just come quite close. Of course, the most famous birds of the Galapagos are the blue-footed boobies, and they have such interesting behaviors, and they would come right up to you. And so and then these are the lava lizards. One of the really interesting things about lava lizards and other animals too, but lava lizards especially. So the Galapagos is this group of islands, this big archipelago. And what's interesting is that the animals will be different from one island to the next. And so you can really see it here in these lava lizards. This one here has, these really bright colors on its chest. This would be a female. And then on other islands, they would just be completely dark. Or on another island, they might even have like a really yellow golden tint to them. And so I was really learning a lot about science, because my job was to follow the naturalist while they're leading walks. And then, and I'm filming them telling these great stories of nature. And so then during that time, I would be learning, and so they're saying something there, and then I would record it, and then I'd listen to it 5 more times in my cabin while I'd be editing. And then, so I was not only immersed in nature on the island, but also in my editing room. And so it's kind of this, amazing landscape where you have these, volcanic rocks, just like in Hawaii, but it's like this land of dragons, because you have these big marine iguanas, and they too are different from one island to the next. And you get to see great animal behavior. Like here's a brown noddy trying to steal this little fish from the pelican. And so it really was just, this immersion into, such vibrant animal populations and dense and a density too that's hard to find in other places. This is my photo that was purchased and then and ran in National Geographic. They used it for advertising. So I haven't had a story in National Geographic yet, but this was my photo that did make it in. And it was fun too to experiment with other aspects of photography too. Like we came across this dead marine iguana, and I was like, oh, this is nice, but I just need something more. And I was like, does anybody want to kiss this dead marine iguana? And this one woman's like, I'll kiss the marine iguana. And so she comes down, and it was just perfect. She had, her lipstick on and everything. And so it was a fun place to play and to really experiment with new things. And then, going to other places as well. This was in Costa Rica, and here's Baja California, where the gray whales will come right up to the boat. And actually, it's amazing. The mothers will actually push the gray whale calves up to the boat so that you can see them, so that you can even pet them. And it's this really incredible behavior. Unfortunately, right now, gray whales are having a very hard time in the world, largely due to climate change, and their habitat is being heavily impacted up in the Bering Sea and Arctic, where they feed. And so they're just not gaining as much weight as they need, and they have a huge migration. They go all the way up, from around the, from the top of Alaska all the way down to Baja California. And so it's a huge amount of energy that they have to spend to get all the way down here to have their young. So so it was, these really, just mind-blowing experiences, like petting a whale, and it really just, blew my mind. And here's, this sea turtle. And I just love how this day was so perfectly clear that his reflection was almost mirrored in the water above him. And I, kept paying more and more attention to these, to the sea turtles. And then I realized one day that I had photographed the same sea turtle the year prior. So in June, I had taken the one on top, and then on the bottom, I was like, oh my God, I've seen this sea turtle before. And sure enough, it was the same one. And so, the story of nature really began to, tell so much more than just what meets the eye. And that also comes to, sharks. And so down in Galapagos, it's one of the best places on the planet to swim with sharks. And when I saw this hammerhead shark swimming right at me, I can assure you, I wasn't thinking, what's my ISO right now? Or what's my depth of field? I wonder if I should change my aperture for a different depth of field. No, I completely froze when I saw this shark. He was swimming right at me. And luckily I took this photo right before I froze. But he kept coming after that. And it was the only time in my life where like literally every muscle just completely froze. And so, it was a very impactful experience. And I was, perfectly fine. And these guys are very, they're not aggressive. They don't attack people there. But still, there were many other great opportunities to see sharks and to really fall in love with them. Because almost every time that we would go snorkeling, we'd get to see some of these sharks. This is a white-tipped reef shark. And, one of the really interesting things about sharks in tourism is that, many divers and snorkelers will travel around the world to be able to see sharks. And what they've done now is researchers have said, okay, so they'll look at a certain place that gets, for a certain place that gets a lot of shark tourism. I think it was Palau where they did this study. And so they said, okay, they counted all the people that were going to Palau to see sharks, and then they would look at the sharks that people would see routinely. Because, just like that sea turtle who I would see in the same place year after year, many of these reef sharks as well, they'll stay in a territory, essentially, in an area. And they won't defend it against other sharks, but they'll just stay in that area because they know the food is good. And so what this study did is it looked, okay, if this, a certain number of people are spending a certain amount of money to see a certain number of sharks, they were able to divide the total amount of money and then divide it into the sharks that people are actually seeing. And they were able to value one individual shark would bring more than $1 million of tourism to that nation. And so it's amazing that now we can actually look at a shark like this and say, this is incredibly valuable, especially in tourism. And so while this was, the experience that I was seeing in Galapagos, the reality of sharks around the world is that actually their populations are plummeting, mainly because of shark fin soup. And so I got more, I continue learning more about this. And this was a photograph that I took in Baja California, and I had a day off, and it was when we had offloaded guests in the morning, and then we were going to be receiving guests that afternoon. And so I had about, 3 hours to just get out in the town of San Carlos and walk around. And I was walking along, and I saw this this net with all these shark fins that were drying. And I said, oh, wow, these are shark fishermen. Interesting. So I went back to the ship, and I got my camera and a tripod, and I went into town, and I got 2 cases of beer, Tecate, I think it was, or some cheap Mexican beer. And I went up to the guys and I said, hey, do you guys like beer? great, let's drink beer. And so, so we're drinking beer, we drink one beer, then we're on the second beer and I say, hey, these are really cool. Can I take some photographs? And they say, are you kidding? Take as many photographs as you want. And so that was how I was able to get this photo. And they had crates and crates of all these shark fins. And I said, so I'm just curious, how many sharks are we looking at? And they go, they're looking around, they say, probably 1,000 sharks right here. And so it really blew my mind that here, this small group of shark fishermen had now, in probably just a matter of a few weeks, been able to collect these sharks. And it was very impactful knowing that how valuable these sharks are, not only to the world ecologically, but also economically. And so I started working with an organization in Galapagos and Sea Shepherd Conservation Society. Many of you have probably heard of Sea Shepherd. These are the guys who they go down to, if you ever saw the TV show Whale Wars, this is the organization who will go down and they'll do direct intervention. So they do this with whaling and many other things around the world as well. And so I was working with them in Galapagos, and my friend said, Jeff, there is this group of environmental prosecutors of Latin America, public prosecutors. So basically, every nation in Latin America would have public prosecutors, and they would take different cases and stories, and they would meet every other year, and they'd have this big congress of all these different public prosecutors, and they would talk about what they were doing, what was working, what was the challenges that they had been facing. But my friend said this group of environmental prosecutors of Latin America, they don't know how important sharks are, and I would love if we could, of course, if we could bring every one of them to Galapagos to go diving with sharks, it would change their life. But we can't do that. So let's take the sharks to them. And so he said, let's produce a film, and then we'll take it and we'll share it with these prosecutors. And so so it took about 2 or 3 years. We worked on this film, and it was not only for this group of public prosecutors, but we also made it with them. And so I filled up a suitcase with DVDs, and then we went down, and here's that group. Every one of these is a public prosecutor in Latin America. And so I was able to share this film with them. And afterwards, many people were very, not only to show them the film, but also give each one of these people a stack of 5 or 10 DVDs to take with them to share back in their, respective areas. And many people came up afterwards and said, I had no idea that this was happening in my country, but I'm going to do something about it. And so I'll jump over to that film now, if you guys want. Let's see. So I guess I need to stop screen sharing to jump over to QuickTime, it appears. Over here. So I won't play the whole film, but I'll give you just a little taste. I'll just do the...
I think you have to stop sharing, Jeff, and then
Okay.
restart.
Okay.
Because
Great.
Zoom doesn't like switching between programs.
Oh, interesting. Okay. So... Okay, I'm back in Zoom. Can you see me?
Roseville Cardiology.
We see you,
See me?
but
Okay.
you need to stop sharing. So you haven't
Yeah,
stopped
new
sharing.
share. Here we are. Okay, great. Got it.
Right now. Yes, give me the phone.
You need to take this call.
Yeah, would you give me the phone?
Roseville Cardiology.
I know.
Okay, great.
Oh,
So here we are.
There you go.
So we made it a 4-part film. So I'll just share part 1 and then part 4.
Our Earth is a blue planet. And below the waves, we find an incredible diversity of life. From creatures ranging great to small, everything relies on a balance. While many people fear sharks, the truth is they are beautiful, graceful animals, and their threat to humans is negligible. An average of 5 people die from accidental shark encounters every year, compared to the 70 million sharks killed at the hand of humans annually. Ask yourself, who should fear who? Sharks keep the ocean in balance. Therefore, if we remove the sharks, we offset this balance, and that could have grave consequences. We rely on sharks to maintain healthy fisheries because when one species is removed from the food web, most other species are negatively affected. Sharks are important, not only from an ecological point of view, but also from an economical point of view. A study in Palau found examples where one shark over its lifetime can generate $1.9 million for the country's dive tourism industry. Every time one of these sharks is captured, the country loses that amount of potential revenue. In comparison, a fisherman who captures that same shark for the fins earns as few as $32. We can only conclude that sharks are much more valuable alive than dead. Shark valuation studies have also been conducted in Latin America, generating similar results.
So now I'll fast forward and get to the ending.
A new day in shark conservation will be led by actions of the environmental prosecutors. In Colombia, with the Malpelo slaughter, the prosecutors acted and the suspects have been detained. In Ecuador, since the appointment of an environmental prosecutor, cases have tripled with the help of other law enforcement agencies. The vessels caught fishing sharks inside the Galapagos Marine Reserve are being held by the Galapagos National Park in coordination with the prosecutor's office. Every day these vessels sit anchored is keeping sharks alive. Furthermore, the environmental prosecutors acted, and the message is being sent: we will not stand for illegal fishing. We need lawyers to get involved in prosecuting shark finning crimes. First, we need to become aware of these issues, which is half the battle. With more awareness, we create more enforcement. Secondly, we need to enforce a law, and this means action. It can be tremendously beneficial to identify strategic partners for litigation. This builds momentum in the prosecution, so there's no turning back. Non-governmental organizations can help tremendously, and this has proven to be the case in Panama and Galapagos, where authorities and civil society are working together to improve the judicial system. Also, other environmental authorities can become helpful allies in the litigation process. Prosecute to get a conviction and to set a precedent. These cases can be unique, and prosecutors who set these precedents will be remembered and will enter into the history of environmental law.
Em nome da Rede Latino-Americana do Ministério Público Ambiental, que congrega membros de 19 países do Ministério Público na defesa do meio ambiente, eu gostaria, em nome da coordenação executiva, agradecer aos colegas que vêm exercendo um trabalho fundamental na proteção marinha e especialmente na proteção contra a caça e pesca ilegal de tubarões. Esse trabalho é fundamental para não só que a sociedade conheça o trabalho do Ministério Público, como especialmente para poder compartilhar experiências exitosas e servir como um canal de fomento ao trabalho em rede, ao trabalho conjunto e à efetividade da atuação do Ministério Público. Então, em nome da Rede Latino-Americana do Ministério Público Ambiental, os agradecimentos e o reconhecimento pelo esforço, pelo empenho e pela dedicação ao trabalho na proteção da fauna.
These cases can be ambitious, but the rewards will benefit the sharks, the ocean, and the future generations that depend upon a healthy ocean. After all, we are only borrowing this planet from our children. These crimes cannot be ignored. What you see, you protect. That is why we bring the oceans to you. In the words of Jacques Cousteau, people protect what they love, and we love what we understand.
Cool. So that was the film that we did, and it was very successful. We lucked out with that, and so after that, we heard reports of more prosecutions taking place, and also those photographs that you had seen, those piles of fins, those have been used multiple times, including the International Union for Conservation of Nature. They've used it in reports that have been sent out, and so it was very successful. And let's see. Now I'm going to jump back here to. Okay, great. So now let me jump back. So can you see my screen now? Do you see the?
No, you're going to have to stop sharing once again and then share the other screen that you want us to see.
Gotcha. Okay, great. So now you can see me okay?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So now we'll go back here to so after this project, after it was such a success with the sharks, then we moved on to another project, and this project was a little bit different, but I realized, in this that making videos is good, or photos, all of this work is good, but really what's the most important is that you get it in front of the people who can make the big decisions. And so that was what I realized, is that, you want to have like a laser like focus and then direct it exactly to whoever the people are that can make the changes that you're hoping for. So now I will go to, I'll show you another little video that we had that was something quite similar to this, except we moved from the world. I'll first show you just kind of a fun little film that we had that I did. It was just a passion project, and I think passion projects are great, even if you don't share it with other people, but just so that you can stay motivated. Do whatever do the art that to you is the most fun. And so this was, first I'll just start with a little video here called, okay, looks like I need to open it up first. Oh, here we are. So this was a video that I did with the Alaska Whale Foundation, and here we are. And I went to them because I was working up in Alaska and I really fell in love with humpback whales. And so I said, hey, I would love to make a film about humpback whales. Can I make that film with you guys? And then, we can do something that will be great for both of us. So that's where this film They make the best noises. So that video, it was a hoot, you know. So for several days we were out there filming whales and also, you know, taking photographs of the undersides of their flukes, which I'll get back to in just a second. But a couple, you know, really crazy moments from that time when we were out there is, you know, so we're out there and we're looking for the whales, and he mentions the bubble net. So it's amazing. If any of you have seen bubble netting behavior before, it's incredible. But basically, one will swim in a circle and release bursts of air out of its blowhole, and so it creates this big cylinder, and then they all come up. Well, so I was out there with this researcher, this Japanese researcher named Junji, and so we're out there, and the bubbles come up, you know, just on the you know, left side of us. We're like really close. We're like, oh wow, they're right here, and so we see the bubbles come up on the left side, and then we saw more bubbles come up straight ahead of us. And then bubbles came up on the right side. It was like, oh, Junji, we're in the net. We're in the net. Get out of here. And so he jumped on the throttle and we backed out just in time. But it was amazing because during that, you know, right during that same time, you know, not long after that was when you saw that shot where the whale comes right up and puts his pec fin only like 6 inches from my camera. So that was when, you know, I was, you know, the whale almost touched me. So it was a really, really interesting experience. So I had fallen in love with whales, and of course Sea Shepherd, they do quite a bit for protecting whales. And so they came to me about doing another film, and this time it had a similar purpose as previous, but what they wanted to do was to make a film and to make very clear the differences between cultural whaling and scientific whaling and commercial whaling, because those three are different things. There's cultural whaling, that's what we do. You know, the United States, we're a whaling nation because we still have, you know, people whaling up in Alaska. And so that's cultural whaling. The second is scientific whaling, where, you know, if you're doing research and you say, oh, you need for some reason to harvest some whales, that's, you know, you can, there's a way that you can do that and call it science. And then the third is commercial whaling, and commercial whaling has been prohibited since, I think it was 1986 or somewhere around there. But Japan has been continuing to do commercial whaling down in the Antarctic waters in a whale sanctuary. And they're saying that it's not commercial whaling. They're saying that it's scientific whaling. And then later on they said, oh, but this is our culture. It's like, wait a minute, it can't be all three. And so the purpose of this film, I won't show you the whole thing, just, you know, but just a little bit of it. And it was very, it was very effective. And so I'll get back to that. I'll tell the good news of that afterwards. So let me just share a screen real quick, and then I'll just jump over there, and here we go. Okay.
Having studied whales here in Galapagos for many, many years, I can say that the learning process for the human being is far greater by studying whales in their natural habitat and in their natural way to be, without rushing in amongst them and trying to select whales to kill. Therefore, from a point of view of studying whales, we believe that it is simply not necessary to kill them. And this brings up the question of scientific whaling. Scientific whaling basically was a loophole put into the moratorium on whaling. And this permitted nations, the whaling nations, to slaughter whales for science. Now, this word science is a word which can be used in various contexts. And in the context of this terminology, it really does seem to have been invented as a cover for continuing to whale and to increase the whale quotas over.
All right, so I'll just, so it carries on, and then here it makes that, very clear where you have scientific whaling, cultural whaling, and then commercial whaling. And so the purpose of this film was to convince other politicians in the country of Australia that what Japan was doing was illegal, and it worked. And then after that, not politicians, judges, I believe, but it worked. And so the country of Australia took Japan to the International Court of Justice, and then said, what you're doing is not, you're not doing scientific whaling, you're doing commercial whaling. And the 3 whale species that they were going after, fin whales, minke whales, and humpback whales, they were saying that, humpbacks should not be hunted, that fin whales should not be hunted, and minkies, if you're going to hunt them, you should certainly reduce your numbers. And they took them to court and they won. And after that, humpbacks were taken off the kill list. So it was another big victory. So since then, to my knowledge, Japan has not hunted more humpback whales. So it was a fun project, and it was great to have good news. So now I'll go back here to screen share once more. We'll get back into some slides, and here we go. Where is Keynote? Great. So here's oops, let me go. Here we go. So nowadays, humpback whales have a lot more protection. And one of the really cool things about humpbacks, which I'm excited to tell you guys about, is that you can play a very active role in their conservation, in their management, and in the body of knowledge and the science that we know and understand about humpbacks. And that's because, if you see here, this is the underside of a humpback's tail. And every underside is unique, it's different. Not only sometimes you have this black and white, coloration, and that will more or less stay essentially the same throughout their whole life. But also too, the contour, the shape, it also is unique to that whale. And so with that, you're able to keep track of that information. And so this is how today people are able to study whales and learn all sorts of things. Not only how many young have they had, but the places that they go. And I'm going to show you one fun thing here. So all of you are invited to. Let me pause this, and I'm going to jump over to show you something very cool. So let me close here. All right. Now we go back to Zoom and share this. So this is a website called Happy Whale. And Happy Whale is an amazing project by a whale researcher, and his name is Ted Cheeseman. And what he has done is put together the largest catalog of humpback whale IDs around the planet. And so I have submitted 139 whales, and he's partnered with Google. And so from your photos, he runs it through, and he's able to match, almost always able to match that whale, so that way they're identified. So you can see here, I've identified 73 whales in Southeast Alaska, 12 whales in Mexico, 38 in the down off of Dominican Republic, and then 16 whales down in Antarctica. And so it's really fun because if you go over here to notifications, you get notified. They'll tell you, hey, we just saw your whale again, and so you get to keep track of your whales, and it's really, really great. So if any of you have whale fluke photographs, if you have any of these pictures of their tails, I would ask you to check out Happy Whale. It is so much fun. And then, you know, it's great too. You can see the names of these guys: Batman, Whale von Bubbles, you know, Eolian. So it's fun. And what you're doing too is you're contributing to you're contributing to science. This is called citizen science, and then from this, scientists are able to use this information, and it's very effective. And so now going back to our other project here, let me jump back in to, here we are, back to Keynote. So play again. And then that brings us to killer whales. So killer whales, you can do the exact same thing. If you see here on the side of this killer whale, you see right below that dorsal fin, there's this gray patch, and that is called the saddle patch. And that saddle patch, again, is unique to that individual. You can see that not only does the shape of the saddle patch, it changes, but also too, you'll have scarring in there that will stay with the whale. And so from that, we've been able to follow and study killer whales for quite some time. And I have there's one killer whale who is my favorite killer whale, and I've seen him a few different times up in Southeast Alaska. And we were in this time we were doing motorboat tours, Zodiac tours around this really blue ice around LeConte Glacier. And we were out there, and I hear on the radio, hey, there are 2 killer whales coming in. And I'm like, oh my God. And so I take my boat over, and we're looking, and when we see T-87, he comes up, and I look with my binoculars. I'm like, oh my God, this is T-87. I know this killer whale. And it was so cool to be able to see him and recognize him. And then too, he and this really beautiful female who's in the picture here, they were swimming right in front of the blue ice. And it was right towards the end of the, you know, we stayed with them for probably 10 or 15 minutes. And then they were going to be approaching this blue ice, and all the other Zodiacs had gone back to the ship. And I was like, you guys, this is spectacular. We're not going back. And so we followed them for another 5 minutes, and that's how I was able to get this photo of it in front of the blue. But it was you know, just a really wonderful experience. And I've submitted so many photos to I'll send them to the whale biologists up there, and then they get sent in and they update the catalogs. And I sent in so many one year that they actually decided to name a whale after me. So there's a little Litton out there somewhere swimming in the big blue ocean.
Can you talk a little bit, maybe you are, about the challenges of taking photographs from a ship or a boat?
Yeah, absolutely. So there are 3 really good reasons to use a fast shutter speed when you're shooting these guys. And that is because if you're zooming in, you know, of course, the farther that you zoom in, the faster the shutter speed that you want to use. If the animal that you're trying to shoot is moving, then you want to use a really fast shutter speed to try and freeze that action. And then also too, if you're shooting from a moving platform. And oftentimes when you're out here trying to shoot whales, it's the trifecta. You have all 3. You're bouncing around in a little tiny boat, zoomed all the way in, trying to shoot an animal that's that's moving really fast. So I try to get at least a 2,000th of a second for a shutter speed, 1,000th of a minimum. But yeah, really try to get 2,000th or 3,200th of a second, and then just crop ruthlessly. You know, it's funny. You know, I had a discussion with a friend in Galapagos a few years ago. And she would say, you know, if I would have to crop the photo, I'd rather just not take it. And I'm like, my camera has 50 megapixels. Who are we saving these pixels for? You know, I mean, especially when photos are just going onto Instagram, you know, or putting them online, like, you know, crop them and you know, do whatever you want. You know, it's your image. So that's mostly that's most of the information in this photograph here. When I'm trying to to photograph those saddle patches, you see here how the background, how that water is so much lighter than the killer whale. And so for that reason, I'll also use exposure compensation, usually about 2/3 or maybe one stop over zero. So I'll be about one stop over, just so that way I take a brighter photograph and I have a more realistic to what it was in the environment. So that way I can actually see that saddle patch. But that's a really good question. And if you have any, please shout out if anybody does have a question of any of these things technically.
One more question.
Yeah, great.
How long a lens did you use to get some of these?
Yeah, these are all using the Canon 100 to 400. And so I'm using a 400 millimeter lens, but then I'll also crop ruthlessly. I mean, especially because these are going to be used, they're going to be going into a catalog or online. And so, you don't need the 50 megapixels of resolution, and all you would have is other ocean around it. And so since really the image is just right there, I'll crop in quite a bit. But that 400 millimeter lens, it's a great wildlife lens. Some of you may have it. It's just fantastic. But even if you don't have the giant glass and an SLR, a lot of the as you guys probably know, a lot of the point and shoots now, there's this whole category called super zoom, and the super zoom cameras will have a huge zoom. And so I'm trying to remember the exact Sony model. It's just incredible. It might come to me later, but anyways, Sony has great ones. Nikon has great ones. Canons are a little bit smaller, more on the prosumer side. But yeah, it's fantastic. Now you don't actually, you don't have to go, with the $2,500 lens. You can get, I think that Sony is in the $1,600 range. So yeah, the super zoom cameras are fantastic. Personally, I'm a little bit afraid of them. Afraid simply because I'm afraid I'm going to like it so much that I'll stop carrying all my cameras and lenses and in a huge camera bag. But that being said, my back is sore because a week ago when I went up to Lake Tahoe to do some photography, and I was freezing cold, and so I jogged back to my van afterwards with my giant backpack on, and my back has been sore ever since. So yeah.
One more question that just came up.
Please.
Your ISO, how high will you go on that?
It depends on the camera. So my 5D SR, it does not have great ISO sensitivity, but it has the 50 megapixel. And then a year or two after that, they came out with the 5D Mark IV, and that one has much better ISO sensitivity. So with these images, I'm not so worried about noise, or that digital grain. I'm not too worried about that because, I need to get that fast shutter speed. And so if I can't get that fast shutter speed, then it doesn't even matter what my, aperture or ISO are, because if I can't freeze the action, then it's going to be a blurry photo. So for that reason, I'll push it a little bit farther for that reason, just to make sure that I can get a really fast shutter speed. And in nature photography, oftentimes that is where I will start. Oftentimes the subject or the environment will dictate your shutter speed, and then the other things just kind of they just kind of fall in line after that. So usually I'll start with shutter speed. Great questions. So to answer a little bit less ambiguous, on my 5D SR, it starts to get pretty bad around 3,200. I mean, certainly more than noticeable, but that's when it starts to deteriorate. And on my 5D Mark IV, I can get usable images out at 6,400 or 10,000, or you can get pretty high up there. Those are also full sensor cameras, so the sensor is the same size as 35 millimeter piece of film. So you're able to capture a lot of light, which is really nice. But the new sensors, I mean, it's incredible what Sony does. They're able to do really, really, really wonderful sensors. And you guys probably know Sony is who makes the sensors for a lot of the digital cameras out there. Nikon doesn't make sensors anymore, as far as I know. I think Sony's making all of Nikon's sensors. So yeah, Sony is, they're doing great stuff. And it's kind of like you can either go, you can get a camera that'll do super high ISO with fewer megapixel, or you can go really high megapixel and not so good on the ISO. So you can just kind of, pick in there. They usually have a few different models, like the Sony 7 series. They have a few different ones depending on which way you want to go. So this is one of our ships, the National Geographic Seabird, and this is in Baja California. And Baja California, it's fantastic, and it is so close. And the animals are great. Sea lions will come right up to you and they'll play with you. And my friend Ralph, who's my boss, I had been working down in Baja, and I get this call on like Tuesday, and he says, "Hey Jeff, I am doing this project in Mexico this weekend. Do you think you can get to Mexico this weekend to join me on a project?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure. What's the project?" And he says, "Well, it's amazing. What we're going to do is we're going to fly in an airplane all around Baja California, and we will shoot photographs of all these places that are endangered right now from development, and then we're going to give them to all the different conservation organizations so that they have better images to work with." And I said, "This is a genius idea." And so he was working on photos and I was working on video. And so I kind of had a little bit of an idea what it was going to be. I did not think that it was going to be this. So this was one of the mornings. And one of the challenges was that in Mexico, you're not allowed to fly at nighttime because they are afraid that you're going to be trafficking drugs. And so, but of course, as photographers, we want that really nice early morning light and sunset light, but it was very hard to do. And so one of the places where we were going to be leaving was this flying out of this little military base. And we had asked them, "Hey, can we fly out of here at 6 a.m.? And they're like, "No." And I was like, "Okay, well, let's just try showing up at 6 a.m., but we'll bring everyone breakfast." And so then the next morning we showed up with, boxes of donuts and coffee really early before we were supposed to, but we showed up with all these breakfasts and everything, gave everybody food. And we're like, "Hey, do you guys mind if we leave?" And they're like, no, go for it. Get out of here. And so it's kind of like the other story with the cerveza. So I'll jump over and I'll show you this other film because it was a lot of fun.
Just want to give you a time check too, Jeff.
Yeah. Oh yeah, we got 8 minutes. So I'll just show you guys. I'll just preview it here really fast. Actually, let me do this. I will type into the chat. I'll give you guys my website, and so then you can. I'll show you my YouTube channel, so that way you can watch this film, and there are a bunch of other ones there too. But I'm going to jump now towards where we are here in beautiful California. So here in 2016, I heard about Centennial Dam, and at first I was very hesitant to jump on another conservation project because they take a lot of time, they take a lot of money, and you're not always going to get paid. And so. But I heard about Centennial, I heard more and kept researching it. And I realized that the numbers did not make sense because I went down to South Sutter Water District, who gets our water below us. So whatever we don't use in NID, South Sutter, they're the ones down, they get the water out of Camp Far West. And I looked at their spill records, and then I subtracted the amount that they want to take out of NID, that they want to take out of the Bear River for Centennial Dam. And NID is trying to remove enough water for 2.3 million people. And we don't have that many people in Nevada County. We don't have that many people in Nevada Irrigation District. And so it's a huge amount of water. And so because the numbers and everything really didn't make sense, I started looking into, I started working in conservation there. And so let me just show you, we'll jump back in here to Keynote. So play. So this is what this is an image from that Baja California trip, flying all over. And then there's another, another classic story, just like the other one. Ralph is like, "Hey Jeff, we just had a cancellation on this trip down the Grand Canyon. Can you get here in 2 days?" Yeah, I'll be there. And so we did a trip going down the Grand Canyon, and that is called the Colorado River. That's on the website. You can check that one out too. And then here we are in our neck of the woods. So this is a salmon in the Feather River. And then here's our beautiful Bear River. I was down here this morning, and just a heads up, if you want to photograph the Bear River, we have a storm coming in. And so you'll be able to get some snow down there again. And so the Bear River is stunningly beautiful. So I made this film here in 2017, which was called Voice of the Bear River. And that looks at all the different aspects of the dam and the impact. And then I made one just focusing on the Native American side. So this is called We Are Here. And many of you know Shelley Covert. She is the local Nisenan spokeswoman, and she did an amazing film. And her, and then Clyde Prout of the Colfax Nisenan, he also was in the film. And then this was our most recent one, The Hidden Bear, which was just in the Wild and Scenic Film Festival. Do you have a question? Yeah, please. Oh, I saw somebody waving their hand. Okay, so this is the new film, and I have 4 minutes here, so I'm just going to show you just a little bit of the ending here. And so now let me pause this and then jump over to The Hidden Bear. Stop sharing here. Great. Oops. Zoom. Share. And now QuickTime, looking for Hidden Bear. Open it up.
Hey, Jeff, while you're pulling that up, tell me where that shot is, where those kayakers are dropping down into that about 20-foot waterfall that kind of, and that, where is that on the Bear River?
Yeah, isn't that amazing? So that is actually on the spillway when there's a high flow year. That's the spillway out of Rollins, and so what I'm proposing now is that we protect the river from Rollins Reservoir all the way down to Combi Reservoir, and just to protect the river, just to leave it the way it is. There are 24 people with homes down there. We don't need to demolish their homes. It's a big project. But so here we start out. It's a 3-day trip down the Bear River to show the whole section that would be inundated and impacted if we were to build Centennial Dam. So just a preview here. So this is where so we hiked for the first day, and then we got stuck in a certain spot, and preview through there. And then I crashed my drone. And so I'll just play here the last. Is it okay if I go just a few minutes long? People are welcome to head out and do the intermission. That's fine.
No, keep going.
Okay, great. So I'll just play the last, what look like 6 minutes here. And so I spoiler alert, I crashed my drone, and then I had to go looking for it. And so I found it. And at first I thought it was broken, but then it turned out that I did a test and it seemed like it was okay. So here we go. And here's the ending of the film. Should we do a little test and just see if you can still fly?
I was a razor blade, she took me to the edge. I did her dirty work.
And again, all of this would be underneath Centennial Dam. This would be 100 feet underwater.
can't imagine losing this. I can't imagine thinking that this is worth ruining just to capture the water to sell out of the district, just to capture the water to turn more farmland into housing all through the Central Valley. And it's just time. It's time that we see Bear River for what it is, a beautiful place.
I've gone up the country, babe, don't you wanna go? I've gone up the country, babe, don't you wanna go? I'll take you to some place I've never been before. I'm going, what it says I'm going. I'm going where what it says I'm going. We get drunk in the water, stay drunk all the time. Gonna leave this city, got to get away. Gonna leave this city, got to get away.
Right here, we'd be passing underneath a 275-foot tall dam. Not worth it. This is too beautiful. Can't do it. Some things are just off limits. This is off limits.
So it was a success. We were able to get Karen Hull onto the board, and now the dammers on the board are 2 against 3, and so now we're just trying to get a little bit more information so that way they can stop the dam. And I think it's a good just kind of a good place to finish with, because if you guys are interested to learn more, you're welcome to see more about Bear River. But basically, my process through all of this is, and when people ask what's the most that I can do as an individual, is to stop acting as an individual, to try and find other organizations who need your photos or need the campaign, need your photos for their campaign. You can start groups on Facebook, things like that, and then that way you can reach a bigger audience. So if anybody has any questions, feel free to shoot. I'll be hanging out here through intermission. So
good. Well, why don't we take this time to ask you some questions
great.
for a few minutes, and then we'll have an intermission. That was really great. And you did answer some questions before, but
Cool.
let's see if anybody else has any now. So
Great. Yeah. Yeah,
thanks.
shoot.
That was great. Questions?
I have a
Anybody?
question.
Yeah, please.
What kind of video camera do you use, and how about underwater?
Yeah, good question. I use my Canon 5D still camera. I've been using those for all my video since 2009. And it's, you know, they have other video cameras out there, but the nice thing is that you can use your Canon lenses with that, or anything with a Canon mount. And they're, you know, the other benefits too is, you know, with a full frame sensor, you get that really nice, it helps give you that shallow depth of field because you have such a wide, such a large sensor. And so you get a really nice cinematic look, which is really nice. So I use those cameras. I also have a housing for that, so I can take them underwater. But that would have been too bulky for the project going down Bear River. And so for that, we just used GoPros. And GoPros are amazing. You know, the new ones are great. The early ones, like 1 through 4, were really hard to use. But from 5 on, I think they're in 8 or 9 now. The GoPros are really, really much easier to use now. Yeah, good question. Thanks.
Keith McMahon, you had your hand raised?
Yes, it's just not a question, it's more of a statement. I know Ted Cheeseman, and I've been on a couple of their whaling things in Monterey Bay.
Yes.
And I've taken pictures and photos of humpback whale fins, and into Happy Whale. And every 2 or 3 weeks, I get an email that says, "We've spotted your whale that you took a picture of in Baja, California on such and such a date." It's a lot of fun. And
awesome.
So I guess maybe I'm contributing to something bigger than I thought. But
yeah, you absolutely are. Yeah, and thanks for the comment. That's great. That's so cool to hear that you're already on top of that. That is so cool. Were you on his trip? When was it? Last July or somewhere like that?
it was probably 2 years ago or maybe 3 years ago. I've been in 2 of them on Monterey Bay.
Okay, nice. Yeah.
Like every July.
Yeah, great. I was just thinking, I didn't see you there last year, but yeah, that's so great that you already know him. He's just a great guy.
I also know Ralph Hopkins.
Oh, good. Yeah.
I've been on a Baja, California trip when he was showing me how to take some pictures. So he's a really neat guy.
He's my friend, my boss, and my hero. And he's really who gave me, showed me the path that, your photos they're not good to anybody sitting and rotting on your hard drive. And so if that's where they are, you might as well give them away to the organizations who are trying to do good conservation work. So
Yes.
yeah,
Right. Thank you.
That's a great idea. Let's just take one more question and then Rachel, you're muted. So let's have Rachel ask a question and then we'll take a 5-minute break.
Great.
Okay. So Jeff, that was wonderful, and you're very video focused. So I'm curious, I do photography, don't do hardly any video at all.
Yeah.
So are the images that I take, do you think that they could have an impact with these groups? Do they want
absolutely
images rather than, or would they take images in addition to video?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And what I really learned when I was at Brooks, I was in the film program, but I was auditing as many still photography classes as possible because really it's the same thing. The only thing is that video takes 30 pictures every second. And so, you're already out there with the same camera that does video. And so I would encourage you guys to if you want to play around with it, you can do it multiple ways. You can be shooting time lapses and then you can compile those together in a program like LR Time Lapse, which is great. So that's a way to turn your photos into video. But really, just, the simplest thing is just hit that red button because almost every still camera, it has that red button and you can shoot video. And then you're shooting video. It's already there. It's already in your hands. And the biggest part is really stability. That's I think the biggest transition for still photographers, because we're used to, only carrying the tripod if we're thinking about doing a long exposure. But just bring that tripod with you and then set it up and then you can and shoot it using video. And then what's fun is that really the only difference is that in photography, you're trying to tell that whole story in one frame. Whereas in video, you've got time. And so there's a great quote by Mark Raboud, which is, photography is about savoring life intensely in 1/100th of a second. And so, you know, you've got that 100th of a second or 1,000th of a second. And then with video, you just hit record and then you can let the action play out. And so, I mean, you can do it with friends or your pets or whatever, but yeah, I would encourage you to play with video. And if anybody wants, you know, photo or video lessons, that's what I do on the ships. So, you know, I'd be happy to help walk you through that too. So,
Jeff, can you give us your contact information?
yeah. You know, the easiest way is everybody here on Instagram? Do you guys do Instagram? Not everybody.
No.
Okay, that's okay.
Okay.
So my email address is very easy. It's, you know, jlit@mac.com, jlit@mac.com. I was jlit before Jennifer Lopez went to JLo. So usually people are like, oh, like JLo. And I was like, no, I had it first. But yeah, jlit@mac, like Macintosh, mac.com. So you're welcome to email me. My Instagram is Jeff_Litton. And there you can also message me through Instagram too. But it'd be fun. Yeah, please find me on Instagram because I want to see what you guys are doing. And I'm excited for the critique. This is gonna be fun. So
Cool. All right. Well, thanks so much. That was great. And I think we all learned a lot about conservation and videography and how to use our cameras when we're out shooting whales for sure. So that's great. Thank you. All right, everybody, 5 minutes. Please come back at 10 till 8 and we will start up with critiques.
oh my gosh, I'm getting followers.
That's a good thing.
Hi, Jeff, I got a quick question.
Yeah, shoot.
What is a certified photo instructor?
Yeah, so our company, so Lindblad Expeditions, we are partnered with National Geographic. And so we own and operate the ships, and National Geographic, you know, they don't want to get into the business of owning their own ships. And so they're much happier to just partner with us. But since we're partnered with National Geographic, it opens up really great possibilities for partnering in different ways. So for one, we get to give National Geographic photographers access to the places where we go, which is great for them. And also we bring National Geographic photographers on our ships. And with that, ever since 2011, we've been certifying naturalists and photographers who are working for Lindblad, and then certifying them through National Geographic, so that way on all of our trips, you have a photographer, a photo instructor who's there to, you know, to help you with your photos. So when I'm there, I mean, I'll be shooting and I'll be taking pictures, but really my emphasis is your photo. And so I also give presentations when we're on the ship. It's just kind of like a nice go-to, you know, just so that way, because a lot of people will get a new camera right before they go on a trip. And so then they get out there and they say, I don't know what to do. I just opened it from the box, and it's say, okay, great. Let's sit down. You know, these are the 5 things that you want to work on, or like my friend Linda says, a button a day keeps frustration away. So sometimes just, you know, distilling it down to just one button, but yeah.
Well, I've been a photo teacher for years and I've never heard of being a certified photo teacher.
Yeah, so it's only something that we have on our ships, because it's in the partnership between with Lindblad and National Geographic. But they did National Geographic. They do have this certified educator program, which is really cool. It's about you know, it's like a 30-hour training course, and then it helps you think about different ways to reach mainly kids. It's mainly for working with kids, but yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if in the future, if they extend that out to also have certified photo teachers, kind of along that same line of the National Geographic Educator Program. Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, good question. When they opened up the program, I was still the expedition filmmaker on the ships, and so I wrote the person who was doing this training, and I was like, I would love to do it. And then they wrote back, they're like, it's not for the filmmakers. And I was like, okay, I would do it for free. And they're like, well, I don't know, talk to Ralph. And so they asked Ralph, do you want this guy to come and film your training? And he was like, yeah, sure, why not? And so I didn't realize it, but the person who I had been writing, I was kind of new to the company. I'd only been there 2 years. I had actually been accidentally writing the CEO of the company. And so then when my boss found out that I had like gone through the CEO to then, be asked to film this training because I so wanted to go there, I got in a lot of trouble. But that was how I met Ralph. And then later I was able to learn enough of the natural history to then be a naturalist and then to be a photo instructor. So it's kind of a program where, so you still have to be a naturalist, ready to take people out on hikes and talk about rocks and plants and bears and whatever. But then while we're out there, then we can also be talking about photography. So, yeah. But I almost got fired.
All right. Sounds like fun.
Yeah.
Jeff?
Yeah, please.
Do you have a website?
Do you
have a website?
It's a good question. And I did, but the thing is with websites, they get outdated so fast. And I wasn't keeping up with it. And so now I have my website just automatically direct to YouTube. So I'm pretty much just using Instagram and YouTube. I can
find you on YouTube.
I have videos. Yeah, I have my films on YouTube.
I can find you on
Instagram. But I need to improve that.
Okay.
Because people are always like, where can I buy your work? And I'm like, yeah.
So Jeff, I have a question.
Thank you. By the way, I know your cousin's out here in Chicago Park.
Oh yeah, Ryan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tree farm.
Yeah. Yep. They're great. Rachel, did you say you had a question?
Well, question. My sister does underwater photography and has had great frustration with the underwater housings and lost some cameras. And anyway, have you had that experience, or you've been really fortunate and not lost any equipment?
So really good question. Luckily, so when I was going to Brooks, for one, it was back before it shut down, so that was lucky. But two, it was still in this era where they had this amazing program. Brooks had a few different projects that cost the school more money than they would bring in, but they kept the programs running. And one of those was undersea cinematography or underwater photography. And so for 2 years in a row, I was able to, during the summer session, do this underwater photography class. And the teacher was remarkable. He's this really great guy. And that photograph where it's an iceberg, is Ralph Clevenger. So it's an iceberg shot at water level, and you can see 80% of the iceberg under, and then 10% or 15%. So that was his photograph, and he made $1 million off of that photograph. It's a digital composite. There's 4 different images that are in there, and
composite. You're killing me.
No, it's a composite. And it was funny because he got so much, criticism because camera groups or whoever would be like, it's not a real photograph. And he's like, I never said it was. But, so many people, it's been on stamps and, and that was back in the day while the, stock photography industry was really thriving, which it's not anymore. It's very hard to make it as a stock photographer. And so he taught us underwater cinematography, and he said that you have to be so meticulous. It is so hard not to flood your camera, because all it takes is 1 grain of sand or 1 hair along that O-ring. And the same goes for cameras of any size. Even like the little rough or tough Olympus cameras, or the little Fuji waterproof. You have to keep those seals really, really waterproof. Otherwise, you'll have a flood. And I've had really minor floods before where the lens attachments weren't stiff enough, and so when that happened, I got a little bit of water in there. But really, what it comes down to is just being so anal retentive about cleanliness and maintenance, and rinsing the cameras off afterwards, and even doing like a, soaking it for maybe like 10 or 30 minutes in fresh water, because what'll happen is the salt,
Camera or the housing?
the housing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So like after getting it out of salt water, you have to wash it, because if that salt water gets stuck inside of the buttons, it will crystallize, and then then it turns into salt crystals, and then that can cut your O-rings or your seal. And so it's really, really tricky. And I was working with a friend, and we both had the same Icolite camera housing. His was for a 7D, mine was for a 5D, but still the same housing. And, we'd come back from a snorkeling outing, and he would just like leave it on the ground and not wash it. And I'd be like, Walter, you really gotta clean these things really well. I mean, you're gonna have problems one day. And he's like, no, it's okay. I don't have time. He's fine. And then, then sure enough, like one of the years I came down, I'm like, hey, where's your camera? He's like, oh, it flooded. He's dead. I'm like, oh no. He's like, yeah, he's bad. And so anyways, yeah, they're very hard to maintain.
That's what she said. All the buttons, she'd get down there underneath the, the water and trying to do some video or shooting, and the buttons, she couldn't control the buttons on it became quite a source of frustration. So yeah.
All right. Well, we probably need to get going here so we can get through all of our wonderful submissions for tonight.
Yes.
So Ellen, are you here? Yes, you are. And let's see, you can unmute yourself, and Jeff's already unmuted.
So Kathy, I wanted to announce the winners.
Yes.
Okay.
Please do.
Okay. Do you want me to start with that?
Go ahead.
Okay. All right, folks. So I mentioned we had our annual award celebration on Saturday night. And what we did was we announced the best of for each of the categories of our photo categories for 2020 for the whole year. So what I'm going to do is share the club's website with you, because we have those winners up. So I'll run through them, and then we can give everybody a great big round of applause. So here we go. Clicking it, share. So can folks see the webpage? Okay. So we're going to start with the best assigned subject for 2020. And we had a tie. So this is best assigned subject, Joy and Love by John Sievert.
Yay!
Yay! Go ahead and share, which tied with best assigned subject, Fly Geyser Sunrise by George Pelpel.
Yay!
Yay! Okay. And there it is. All right. Next up is Best Abstract by Jerry Thomas, called Let It Rain. Okay.
Cool.
Next one up is Best Architecture by Ingrid Lockhart. This is urban.
Yay. Wow, cool.
And so just a little comment. What happened is each of these folks submitted photos all during the year, every month. Then at the end of the year, we had the best of each month put into a voting, and then all the members voted. And then this is the result. So it's Best Architecture. Next up is Best Fauna. This is What Do You Think of Me Now by Janice Rosner. Okay. Next up is Best Flora.
Wow.
Yes, this is Fern Medley by Ingrid Lockhart. Next up, Best Natural Landscape for the year. This is Smoky Sunset at North Lake by George Pelpel. Best Night Photography, Lightning Strikes at Pigeon Point by David Wong. Next up, Best People. This is The Eyes of the Window to the Soul by Jonathan Beth. Best Photojournalism. This is Lightning Storm at Pigeon Point by David Wong. Best Travel. This is Silk Road by Jay Schuff.
Wow.
Yeah. Best Creative Anything Goes. This is Man Jumping in the Moon by Kathy Triolo.
So cool.
Yeah. Best Black and White. This is Courting Dance by George Pelpel.
Wow.
And Best Color Other. This is Moonset at Sunrise by Rick Eshelman.
Hey, Rick.
Yeah, indeed. So that completes all the individual categories in one image. Amongst all of these, people got to vote for the best photo of the entire year for 2020. And that goes to David Wong for Lightning Storm at Pigeon Point. So congratulations, everybody. Congratulations. It's some really outstanding work. And yeah, well done. Well done, everybody. And those are on the website right now. And I did want to do a quick shout out. We've got 3 other winners in our midst at the Wild and Scenic Film Festival. Rick Eshelman won a Jurors Award. Yes, woohoo to him. Ellen Davis won 2nd place in 2-dimensional. And David Wong won 2nd place in photography. So congratulations to our Nevada County Camera Club. Is very well represented at Wild and Scenic.
Yes.
So, all right. And just reminder to the new folks, the way you win a photo of the year is to submit your images for critique every month. That's how it works. So please, please submit your work. And I'll turn it back to you, Kathy.
All right. So I am going to go ahead and share my screen. And the way this is going to work, Jeff, is that I will bring up the first photo. I will give the title of it. And then you or Ellen, I'm sure you've worked out your playlist here. We'll give your critique. And you have 1 minute. And then I'll say the person's name and then we'll move on. Okay?
Sounds great.
Great. All right. Let me share my screen and get this going. And let's see if this works. Yes, it does. Good. Everybody see that? Yes, good. All right. Just want to make sure. All right. Here's our first one. It is cold outside.
Beautiful. So is this Scotts Flat Reservoir maybe, or some reservoir around here? That's beautiful. I think it's great. I think the composition is nice, having her over on the right side and looking out. I think it's a very nice composition, and I really like the leading line with the shoreline as it pulls your eye straight there. It's a strong photo because your eye naturally goes straight to where the photographer is focusing, which is great. The only thing that kind of pulls my eye away is this little rock cluster over there. I'm wondering if you were to kind of compose and maybe just crop it just to take out that little rock pile. The rock pile doesn't do that much for me, but it's a beautiful photo. Very nice.
Okay. That was by Jonathan Beth.
Oh, wow. It was great. It was great.
One is Cottonwood with Hoar Frost.
Wow. Okay. So it's frost. I was wondering if this was done with an infrared camera. It's beautiful though, to get that with that frost. So nice. Again, I think the composition is nice. I love this. I love the balance because, you have the tree on one side and then you actually have really nice use of the nice empty space over there on the side. So I think that's strong. And I like it. I can't think of anything that I would want to do to modify this photo. Maybe, okay, I take that back. There's a little bit of tree on the back behind the tree on the back right. It kind of pulls your eye out, or you can see through the haze. There's some other trees back there. I might take out that little bit just to keep the focus on the cottonwoods, but I think it's a really strong image. Yeah, it's a great one.
Okay, that was by Janice Rossner.
Great.
All
Look
right,
at this
this
little
is Can You Spare a Nut?
This is good. Composition's good. The lighting is really good too, and that's what's really tricky. You either did some really good work in Lightroom, brightening up the face, or used a flash. Either way, the light is perfect in here. Yeah, composition's really strong. Looks sharp and really nicely lit. So it's really tricky to do when you have snow in the background to not blow out the snow and still have good lighting on the face. So that was excellent, how you were able to do that. to balance that light. I might take out this little, on the very left edge, there's a little knot over there, a little black thing. I might Photoshop out that just because it's like the one little detail that kind of pulls your eye out. And maybe a couple of the parts of the nut at the very bottom that's kind of on the edge, just to kind of clean up the borders. But I think it's great. I mean, you have catch light and the eye and interaction with the subject. So I think it's a really, really nice photo.
Okay. This one's by Kathy Triolo.
Okay.
This
Nice.
one is,
And I think that's a ground squirrel.
I think so. I see margaritas.
I see margaritas. Yeah, very cool. It's fun how you do have the margaritas and the ice to kind of, tell it like a joke. Yeah, it makes me thirsty. Makes me wish I had a margarita in my hand. I think it's nice. I think the composition is good. I like having. I'm glad that you have the edge of the window on that left side just to kind of complete it. But it's nice. It's a nice balanced photo and yeah, tells the story of a frosty place. It looks fun. I want to go there.
All right, this is by Jerry Thomas.
Yeah.
This is Cold Day at Yosemite.
Yeah, beautiful. Beautiful. I know this spot, and it's tricky to shoot here because there's always so much of the mist that gets all over your camera and lens. So this is a tricky photo to get, but you did a good job. The lighting is nice. It doesn't look like it's blown out anywhere. So the lighting is good. I think the composition is strong. The tree on the left does kind of pull your eye back over there. I'm almost wondering if you were to crop that as a vertical, only because your eye naturally goes to that which is sharpest or brightest or most colorful, or if there's eyes. And so just only because there's so much contrast and detail in that snowy tree on the left, but that's just a personal thing. And also too, I might change the color of the water just a little bit. It looks a little bit like Gatorade, but it's a beautiful photo. Oh, wow.
And that was by Rick Eschleman. This is Winter Reflection on Donner.
Yeah, I was just going to say this must be Donner. This is great. I love this. It's a good example of a really flat photograph where you don't have anything like a leading line that's everything's on the same plane essentially. But I think it's good. It was I like this. I'm trying to think of if anything that I would do to improve it. I don't know. I think it's fun. When it's a time like this, I mean, you have your horizon right on one of the third lines, which is nice. I might shoot it a couple ways, just try, moving that reflection and moving everything up a little bit just to see what it would be like to have more of the reflection versus the trees. But the trees aren't distracting. I think the trees are nice. I might, in the top left corner, I might just, do a little bit of, Photoshop to just put that, just to fill in that little white corner up there, because it does kind of pull your eye. But other than that, everything looks really nice.
This is by Bill Wages.
Yeah, trying to think if there's anything else I would do to improve it. I think it's a really beautiful photo. You should contact these people and sell it. They'll buy it. They put that on their wall.
View from Donner Summit.
Yeah, this is nice. So this is just kind of a nice example. So the opposite of the last one, which was really flat. This is nice. It gives you a really nice sense of deep space where you have these leading lines, where you got the the diagonal, and you've got the people over on one side, which is great. Yeah, this is nice. Trying to think of if there's anything that I would do to improve. Maybe this little cluster of rocks down on the lower left, just because it kind of pulls your eye over there. But I love having the bridge over on the side. It also works too if you were to, some people are traditional where they don't want to change the aspect ratio different from what the camera shoots, but sometimes I really like shooting things and then cropping them to make it seem more of a panoramic. So I might actually take that bottom edge and move it up. But it's a great photo. It's a great photo.
This is by Anna Woodhull. This is Ice Eagle Falls. Oh, no, it is not. How did we get, we're going backwards. No, we'll go forward. We will get to Ice Eagle Falls in a minute. Don't know what the heck I did, but there we are. Ice Eagle Falls.
Oh, beautiful. Nice. Yeah, I like this. I mean, I was playing with long exposures this morning. It's tricky. You did a good job of not blowing out the water. I might experiment with. I mean, it's nice because it is kind of a hazy day, and so you are kind of showing that in this. I might experiment with, and this is just personal, but I might experiment with bringing the brightness up a little bit, just to kind of really bring your eyes into that water. But then again, also too, sometimes people don't want to go too bright on that because you don't want to blow it out. I might Photoshop out that barren stick up at the top of the waterfall, just because it does pull your eye there. Like that one, I don't care for, but I do love the other dead tree on the right side because that one's more interesting. So, but it's a beautiful photo.
That was by John Sievert. This is Washington Saw Blade.
Oh, cool. Washington Saw Blade. So, yeah, this is fun too. I love photos like this where it gives you a feeling of time and age, and it is kind of like you're looking back in history. Yeah, it's really interesting. I think the composition is nice, having the saw on the bottom and the I guess that's a belt wheel or something up there. Trying to think of what I would do differently. No, it's nice. It's nice because in the background you don't have too much distraction. Whereas if you were to go down lower, you'd probably get more things in the background there that might be distracting. But this is really pretty. It looks like frost all the way around the edge of the saw, and that's really cool.
Okay, that is by Gary Hartstaffner.
Oh, wow.
This is Water and Ice.
Yes, it is. Yeah, so beautiful. Yeah, I like this a lot. I'm trying to think of how to critique this photo because I don't see anything wrong with it. I think it's very nice. I like how the branch goes up into the corner. Just personal preference, but I like when strong lines fade into the very corner. Yeah, this is a nice photo. I like how how the icicles are all sharp and then you have the motion in behind. Very nice photo.
That is by George Pelpel. This is Peak Tide on Winter Solstice.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Really nice landscape. I think it's fun to have landscapes like this where it kind of pulls you into the vastness of it because you don't have any like strong single detail that pulls your eyes to. So with this one where you get to look all the way around, I think it's nice. You really feel that kind of vast expanse openness. I think the composition is strong. I love the empty negative space on the bottom. There's this one little object kind of in the middle, but on the very far left. And I guess it might just be a piece of ice that's just looking different, but it does keep pulling my eye there. I might pull that little bit out, only because I might stamp or clone or heal that out, just because it's a little distracting. But everything else I love. I love the color of the ice. Yeah.
Photographer is Ellen Davis.
Oh, nice.
Now we're moving on to the next category, which is abstract. And in abstract, our first photo is icy fireworks captured on New Year's Eve.
Icy fireworks captured on New Year's Eve. Well, it's beautiful. I like how everything is frozen. I want to know more about this photo. I feel like we're looking under a microscope at freezing ice. I can't tell, but I like it. I mean, it's an abstract, but it's really beautiful. Yeah, I love how your eye just bounces all around. And I love I mean, there's a simplicity to it because it's almost monochromatic, but the lines and everything is so strong. Yeah, very nice.
Okay, that's by Tom Quinn.
Tom, you got to tell me what we're looking at there. That's great.
Next category is architecture.
I could spend 2 seconds doing that. It's just a picture of a frozen puddle.
Oh my
There's
God.
enough sedimentation in the puddle that sometimes when there's sediment in suspension, it creates those three-dimensional patterns rising out of the puddle. So it's not really a macro. Probably taken from 3 or 4 feet away.
Wow.
And yeah, it's pretty amazing.
That was so cool.
That's great.
Yeah, I've never seen something like that. That was really great.
Okay, next category is architecture, and our first photo is wrapped in light.
Oh, cute. Yeah, this is great. Yeah, downtown Nevada City. I think it's nice. Okay, what would I improve? I don't know. The composition looks nice. I like the amount of road. I like how you've softened how the light kind of naturally fades out around it. I don't know if you had to work with that in Lightroom, but maybe no, it looks nice. Yeah, it the only thing that I can think of that might make it just feel a little bit more alive, I'm saying this because it's on a street, is if you had somebody walking around down there. But of course, that's always a real personal preference. Sometimes people hate people in their photos. Other times people do like them. So, I might have stayed oftentimes what I'll do is I'll find a place that I like, and then I'll wait for people to walk through just to give it some kind of, variety. So maybe if somebody was down in the lower left, that's a really nice photo.
Okay, that was by Mike Oitzman. This is Blue Door.
Oh, cool. I think this is cool. Yeah, street art can be really tricky because you can have so many distractions. So I like how you've really brought it in, and so that you're really only paying attention to this guy. I think it's really nice. Little things like that you can't really affect, like when you're shooting it. But I might be tempted to Photoshop out that handle of the door right under the clownfish's face. That's the only thing. It's just really bright, and so it pulls your eye right there. But I think it's nice. Yeah, I like photos of street art, and I think your composition is great.
The photographer is Chris Carpenter.
Cool.
Now we're in fauna category, and the first one is the beauty of birds in flight.
What a nice photo. Yeah, this is really nice. Gosh, it almost looks like a painting. It's beautiful. How can you improve on this? I don't know. Birds are really tricky. Of course, you got to use a really fast shutter speed, so you were able to freeze that, which is nice. My nature photographer, Ralph Clevenger, he would say in nature photography class, we weren't allowed to turn in butt shots. And so I don't know if he would call this a butt shot. I think it's just birds taking off, and it's actually a nice angle because then you can see their head and their wings. So I don't think it's a butt shot. I think it's a nice shot.
Okay, that's by Jonathan Beth.
Great.
And the next one is Young Bactrian.
Oh, wow, that's so cool. Yeah, he's fun. He's cool. I think the composition is nice. I like the lighting on him. I like how he's backlit, and so that way you have that really nice rim light all the way around him. And so I think that's nice. I might be tempted to try and take out that gate kind of on the far left edge there, the edge of a fence or something like that, only because it's so bright. And your eye is drawn to those really bright details like that. I think he's fun though. Sometimes when I have a subject like this, I might just keep shooting it and getting even closer and closer. But of course you don't want to get spit on. So, so there's that.
Maker of this is Jeff Alstadter.
Okay, great. Yeah.
Next one is Harrier Hunt.
Wow, that is a really hard photograph to take to get it sharp while it's pointed straight at you. So good job there. Technically, that's very, very, very hard to do. Yeah, I think this is a cool photograph. What would I change? I don't know. I can't think of anything that would be improved. I mean, those rocks down there would be pretty easy to take out. I think, or maybe those are birds actually. Those might be egrets or something, or geese. So your eye kind of bounces between the Harrier and then down there just because they're bright. But yeah, that's a nice photograph.
The maker is Brian Dunbar.
Yeah.
This is Watching Lunch Slip Away.
Oh, beautiful. This is nice because you have, so the cheetah is in such a nice spot in the frame, and also the background works really well with it too, because it's such a nice clean background behind him. And so the definition on all those spots is really good. You know, what would I change about this photograph? I don't know. I might try and take out that stick right below him, because you got tons of other grass around there that you could fill in with. But I think it's nice. I think it's a nice pose. You might, I mean, if you wanted, you could also probably add a little bit of warmth to the photo and just make it seem a little bit more like a sunset, because it looks like it is a nice low, directional light. And so it does seem like if you wanted, you could add a little bit of warmth to that. But then again, the greens are really beautiful. So, it might change the greens more than what you're looking for.
That was by Rachel Rosenthal. And this is That's My Fish.
Wow. This is great. This is excellent. Yeah. Okay. So what do I find to improve on this? This is a beautiful photograph, and it's so hard to do because, when you have wildlife like this hiding, it's very hard to get a sharp photo. And so it's nice. It's a very good storytelling shot. There's no question, what you're looking at. You're looking at a fight between these two guys. So yeah, I think this is a nice photo. I guess it might be the wing of somebody else on the far right side that kind of comes in a little bit. But I don't know. I don't think you would want to crop that edge in any. So
Sorry. That was by Janice Rossner.
yeah,
This
it's
is
great.
Red Tail.
Yeah, this red tail blinking. That's a nictitating membrane. It's a like see-through membrane. They've got two sets of eyelids. So, I oftentimes I'm shooting birds. I'll get this where they're blinking, that nictitating membrane. I think I'm saying that right. I might be saying that wrong. But yeah, it's nice. I think it's sometimes tricky when I do get it, when I catch that membrane, just because you don't get that really nice definition of the eye. So that's a little bit tricky in there. And also I might move him a little bit more to the right, just only because this this negative space on the right side, because he's looking left, I feel like I want there to be more space in front of his beak. But it's a nice photograph. Yeah, and maybe if you were to use a little bit larger f-stop number, you might have been able to get a little bit more depth of field. I can't tell if that's motion blur from shutter speed not being high enough. But I mean, a great catch. I mean, if you can get that close to a hawk, that's a hard thing to do. So
The maker is Jimmy Marchio.
Oh, great.
Praying mantis eating honeybee.
I don't think so.
Oh, again?
That's okay.
I thought I had the right pause button, and I don't think I do. I've been trying to pause them, but it's not working.
That's okay, no worries.
So we'll get back to praying mantis eating honeybee in a minute. Come on. You're getting closer.
It's nice to review them all again. They're all such great photos.
All right, here you go.
Oh, wow. Eating
Praying
a
mantis
honeybee.
eating honeybee. There you go.
Wow. I mean, an interesting catch. I've never seen a praying mantis eating a hummingbee, eating a bee, excuse me. So that's amazing. And yeah, really interesting. The flowers on the left, on that left edge, are a little bit distracting. So I might just crop that side in a little bit. But I think it's a really cool catch. I love how his color is so camouflaged with the leaves, but the way that you were able to have him over a darker background, he jumps out perfectly. So there's no question of where the subject is, but I might bring that left edge over just because it's a little bit distracting, and I don't feel like that space is doing anything for the photograph. A little bit, yeah.
Keep going. There we
Yeah.
go. Okay, that was by Dave Connell.
And if you do want to keep the aspect ratio of these things, sometimes what you can do, like nobody would know if you were to just like stretch, like if you wanted the flowers on top and bottom to be same as where they are, and you don't want to bring that whole corner on two sides down, you could just stretch it out, and nobody's going to know that praying mantis is an extra, 1/4 inch long.
Okay, and again, that was Dave Connell. This is Alaskan black bear.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. What a great moment. That's great. So he is so nicely juxtaposed with that beautiful rockweed behind it, and so it's very clear. You can see him really well. Maybe if you were using a faster shutter speed, you might have been able to get a little bit sharper, but it's a great catch. And given that it was overcast that day, you have the really nice catch light in his eyes. So that is really working for you. The lighting and everything is nice. I might bring down like a graduated filter, and just to darken that background a little bit, because those sedges and ryegrass in the back is a little bit bright, and so that might help.
We're
But a
cutting
beautiful
off
photo.
there. Let me go back. There you go.
Yeah, it's a nice photo. I might also see, if you did crop this in on your computer, you might try different compositions and just see if you like it better anywhere else. I might move him either a little bit to the left or a little bit to the right. But it's tricky. It's tricky when the body's facing one way and then the head is going another way, because then you don't know. It's like, which side should you put more space on? So you could experiment, but I think it's a nice photo.
The photographer is Ingrid Lockhart. This is waterfowl.
Yeah, this is nice. I like the monochrome, where you don't have a lot of other distractions, and so it brings you right into the birds. It's a hard photograph to get because everybody's always moving around, and so this is nice how you were able to really simplify and get the birds with such a nice clean background. It's nice. Sometimes with wildlife, I'll try to shoot it at eye level, but the risk that you may have run into here is that you might not have had that really nice clean background. So if you had gotten down lower, they would maybe look a little bit different, so that it doesn't seem like you're kind of looking down on them. It doesn't. I'm just saying might be something to experiment with, but then again, it probably would have changed the background.
The maker is Sheila Ryan Weintraub, and this is Pucker Time.
Whoa, scary. Great white. I'm guessing shot in Guadalupe. Beautiful. I might play with your tint a little bit just so that he's not so magenta. And actually what's fun, you can actually white balance off of him because he's only gray and white. And so you can actually just white balance off of probably that snout or somewhere around there, and to take out some of that magenta hue. But I really like the center weighted composition where he's just coming straight at you, because that's where all of your focus is. And so I think the composition is really strong. I hope you were in a cage.
That was by Mark Davis.
Oh, cool.
This is Hot Legs.
Yeah, that's so nice. I love how you have the reflection down there. It's great. And let's see, what else could be improved? You know, there's a little bit of a distraction in the upper right-hand corner. I'm not sure if maybe there was like a grass or something that was kind of in front of the lens, so it's kind of out of focus, or it might actually be a I don't know what that is. But that you could easily kind of pull out. But this is really nice. Let's see, what else could I say about this photo? I think it's nice. I think that it's so balanced. I think the composition is great. Yeah, you might experiment with photoshopping out some of the reeds, like over on that left edge. They're not distracting, but sometimes I'll just play around with taking out more of the details just to see if it makes it a stronger image. Can we pause here just for a quick sec, just so I could ask or just mention one of the there was one of the craziest moments when I was at Brooks. We walked into class and everybody sits down and the teacher is doing this gigantic Jenga set, but the Jenga pieces are like cardboard shoeboxes. And so he's doing this Jenga set and he's not saying anything. It's just this really weird teacher. And he's pulling out one thing and then putting it on top and then pulling out another and, you know, and doing Jenga. And then eventually he gets to one where he goes to pull it out and you can tell that the whole thing's about to collapse. And so sure enough, he pulls it out and it starts to tip over and then he pushes the whole thing down over all of us in front of the class. And he says, this is a photograph. And if there are any details that you can remove and the whole thing doesn't come crumbling down, then you should take them out because they're a distraction. But if they're important and if in removing them that it would affect your photo and the whole thing comes tumbling down, that's when you should leave it in. So he was more of a Photoshop heavy kind of a teacher. So, you know, everyone's different, you know, but just I thought I would share that crazy story.
Okay, thank you. This category is flora, and there we go. Moss sprouts with dew mimic chihuly.
Wow, yeah, it does look like a chihuly. So nice. I like the simplicity of it. The background is really nice. I like how, yeah, the focus is on the raindrops and the water drops, and I love how they have all these little highlights on them. I think it's a nice photo. I think it's interesting. I can't think of much that I would do to improve this photo. I think it's good because you already have a really nice background, and a lot of times that's the hard part about doing macro. Sometimes what I'll do when I'm doing macro like this, if I don't have a really nice background like you have here, is I'll bring in a big leaf or something like that. But here you don't have that issue. So I think it's fun. Yeah, your eye gets to bounce around and have fun with it.
Okay, that was by Tom Quinn. The next category is natural landscape.
Great.
And our first photo is merging colors of Sand Harbor.
Beautiful. Yeah, this is great. This is the photo I want to take. This is really nice. I think the composition's great. I think that, yeah, I think it's really nice. I like how the trail, of that contrail. I mean, I'm thinking that was from a plane originally, but so it's such a strong leading line up on that upper right-hand corner. I like how it goes into that corner there. Yeah, let's see what could be improved. I mean, the lighting's nice. I'm guessing it was an HDR, because you have a good exposure on everything in there. But it's nice. I like the softness and the reflections on the left side, but I like how you have really great color on the right side, how you can look through it. So I think it's a beautiful photo.
Great. That was Bill Wages, and this is Clouds over Shasta.
Yeah. And I think those are lenticular clouds that you get in those formations. That's really pretty. Yeah, really nice. I love how you have, how they're nice and warm, and you have enough of the sky and the blue in the background that it really makes those clouds pop out. One teacher called that atmospheric perspective, where you have like warm things that would naturally pop out of the screen when you have a cool background. Um, some of the trees are a little bit bright in the lower left and along the bottom there as well. I might darken those just a little bit, just so that way they're not pulling your eye out. But I think I think the composition's nice. Yeah, I think it's a really beautiful photo.
That is by Patricia Levitin. This is A Glorious Morning.
Sure is. Wow, that's beautiful. I don't know, maybe that's like Wildwood, but really great. I mean, the colors are perfect, and sunrises and sunsets are so nice because they just give you more creative freedom, because I can't tell if you increase the saturation or not, because sometimes sunsets and sunrises look this great. I think it's nice. I'm wondering. Yeah, I'm just wondering on the rocks there on the left-hand side, where we have them on the left, but we don't have them on the right. It's not a distraction, but sometimes, if I'm in that scenario, I might shoot it both ways, where I'd take it here and then I'd walk up to the rocks, just so that way I could get them out of the photo. And sometimes you can play with getting down really low too, once you're up at the water's edge. But this is beautiful.
This is by Mike Oitzman. This is Tundra Swans at Sunset.
Nice. Yeah. This is nice. Yeah, I like how you have the swans on the bottom, and then you have the ones flying on top, and so you kind of have the feeling of being there. I mean, I kind of keep pointing out like little, Photoshop modification things. Like I might take out those cell phone or whatever towers those are on the mountain on the left side, only because they're a little bit distracting. But I think it's a really pretty photograph. I like the kind of, soft colors, like soft pastels, and it's not, sometimes I love things to be super vibrant, just like that last one. And then other times I like this as well, kind of like a more muted, but I think it works really nicely because it's kind of a nice moment.
That's by Eleni Prusa. Next one is River Rocks.
Cool. Yeah. A good storytelling photo of a fisherman being out there, and you can tell it's a fisherman. It's kind of hard to see his pole, only because the pole goes over the and it looks like it's going over those rocks, but you can see the line flying back and forth. So we're using a fast seems like pretty fast shutter speed if you're able to catch that line moving. Yeah, it's hard to shoot with rivers where you have so many rocks in the background. It can be really tricky to isolate the subject. I think it's nice. There's not much depth, and there's a little bit of depth in the photo because you can see the rocks, on the back left side. But I might also experiment with, if you were to also walk down and to your right, just because then you could maybe get him a little bit more separation between him and the other rocks behind him if you had some just more clear water behind him. But yeah, it's a nice storytelling photo.
This is by Sheila Ryan Weintraub. This is Yuba River near Purdon Crossing.
Beautiful. Yeah, this is nice. I like how you have the slow exposure and and I like how you have the polarizer, so you can see the really pretty rocks and that really nice emerald water. Yeah, I think it's beautiful. I might experiment with maybe bringing down the exposure if you were to do like a gradient filter. You might try bringing down the exposure on some of the on the top part there, just because it's a little bit bright back there, kind of pulls your eye back. And there's so many firm, strong details with all those barren trees. But yeah, it's a really pretty photo.
That's by Henry Goodman. Next is Morning Dusting.
Beautiful. Yeah, this is really nice. I love the clouds that are coming in, and the snow on those peaks as well. Yeah, this is really beautiful. I think the composition is good. Yeah, I'm trying to think, how would I improve this? You know, I might play with adding maybe just a little bit more contrast in the rocks, kind of in the middle there, just to make them pop a little bit more. But this is very nice. You know, a very nice landscape.
This is by Michael Quinn. Next category is night photography. And we're about halfway done here.
Okay.
And so that's when I take over.
All right. Thank
Great
you.
job, everybody.
Good job. All right, moving on. This is Josh and Orion.
All right, this is just, it's a gorgeous photograph. I mean, there's a lot of really nice points of contrast here. There's like, you've got like kind of the soft light, and then you've got the hard, sharp spikes of the Joshua tree. You know, there's a really strong contrast between light and shadow, and then you have the warm and then the cool. And I really like the center composition with this because it really roots the earth and the sky, and it just really kind of, and it really kind of keeps you, you know, looking, you know, back and forth, and you know, keeps your eye in the frame. And then I just love the mystical feel to this, and it's just a really kind of mythic kind of feel to it. The brightness on the edge, it doesn't bother me much because the dark contrast in the middle of the tree is really strong to keep your eye in.
Okay, that was by Michael Quinn. This is Foggy Night on Lake Tahoe.
Nice. I really love that shade of blue, that time, that night sky, just that time. So that's a beautiful color. You've got really, and a lot of really interesting elements going on here. It looks like you've got the great conjunction going on, and you've got the mist and the clouds. What I might do to improve this one is, you know, either lower the horizon line a bit or bring it up and take maybe 10 steps to the left, or, you know, swing the camera around a little bit and, you know, focus more onto the western side of that image, because then that'll really kind of, because you've got the rocks and the clouds, and once again that would kind of bring it more into a focus, and it kind of cuts off the clouds. And so I wanted to, you know, have that more of the focus, but it's a, you know, it's a really great shot. So.
That was by John Siebert.
All right.
Oh, wait a minute. We are missing some.
Yeah.
We're missing one by Dave Connell. Oh, sorry. We're just missing it. Did we pass something?
No, it should have come right after Tahoe.
Right, and it's not in my, all right, well, we will figure it out.
Okay.
Let's keep going on. Maybe it'll show up in people. Okay, so this next category is people. Sorry, guys, I'm new at this. And our first is long-legged.
All right. So I really like this one because there's a little bit of a story. You get kind of an insight into kind of like who she is and what she's doing. And I really like, you've got the long leading line of her leg, and then that kind of draws you up into the action. And you've got these great diagonal lines, and then her limbs kind of mimic that. And, you know, and you've got the nice warm colors of the background of the rock, and it's got these really great textures. And then she has these really nice contrasting cool colors, and it's kind of a smoother texture. So I really like that. And I just like, there's a little line in the rock right where her glove is. So that's really, I just really like that little detail of the line that kind of connects her. There's a little bright spot on the right edge of the frame that I would fix.
Okay, that was by Chris Carpenter. This is Santa Barbara Solstice Parade participant.
I love how bizarre this is. I mean, that baby doll necklace is everything. Or baby doll head necklace. I mean, it's hilarious. There's a lot of humor. There's a lot of interest going on here. What I would do to improve this one is, at the very least, I would get rid of the green tape in the background. But the other thing I might do is push it even further and take that beige, turn it white, and then add something to the background, like, push it a little, maybe you have like a field of baby doll heads or a giant baby doll head, just kind of push it through and make it weird, or just play around with different backgrounds, see what would make it work.
Okay. That was by Gary Kartstaffner. This is The Best Things in Life Aren't Things.
So the first thing that really drew me into this image was the emotion between the couple, and it's just a really wonderful emotion. And I think that's really, such an important part, of any portrait. And I just really am drawn to more natural expressions, and you can tell this is, they're having fun, they really like each other, and then it's the line of sight just kind of goes right through the baby's eyes, so that really kind of brings the baby in, and of course, you connect with the baby, and it's just a really wonderful family photo. What I would do to improve this one is I would actually chop the edges off, because there's such strong vertical lines, and that kind of pulls the eye away. Also, there's check the tree, the top of her head, and the line coming out of his nose.
Okay. That was by Rachel Rosenthal. This is Newborn 4 Days Old.
This is just absolutely gorgeous. I mean, the tonal range on this is it's just gorgeous. It's it's bright. The baby's face is a little bit, just a tad bit brighter, and it's enough to kind of draw to the baby's face. I love that the background, it's dark, but there's just a little bit enough of a tone to kind of give you context, but I love the expression of the hands. I love how the hands touch, the little curl that just draws your eye up to the baby's eyes, and the gaze of the eye just draws your eyes down back to the hand, and it just draws your eyes around, and it's just absolutely, I wouldn't change a thing.
This is by Shelby Cohen. This is Burning Brush.
So it's like, I like scenes like this, where it's kind of like the everyday and the mundane, and and then there's an interesting scene. There's things going, there's a fire, there's a chainsaw, and there's a lot of action. I like how the fire connects to the chainsaw, and then the guys have matching shirts, so that connects them. And I kind of like how the guy on the left is framed in that tree. I get a tiny hint of like one of Sam Abel's photos, annual branding. It's famous, but anyway, but what I would do to improve this is I would actually, that fire is such a strong element that I would take like 5 steps to the right and try and get that more into the photograph, and just get it, further into the photograph, because just having it right on the edge, it just keeps your eye there and not throughout the rest of the frame as much.
That is by Jeff Alstatter. And this is Rock Man.
Oh, there he is. So I want to photograph this guy. I think this is a really fascinating portrait. He has such an interesting face, and it just reminds me of like a carved mask, like he's like, or maybe he's like a forest spirit or something, And then he's got the earring. It's like it's a bead on a string through a hole in his ear, and just the detail of the heavy animal hides. I mean, there's a lot of rich detail and story to this, and it really draws me in, and I think it's so interesting. I kind of wish there was a bit of catchlight in his eye. And I find some of the background elements a little bit distracting, but it's such an interesting photo that, you know, I think it still works quite well.
This is by Brian Dunbar. Okay. This is photojournalism, and this is World's Fastest Street Roadster.
So I think this is a really intriguing suggestion of the subject, you know, and I'd actually really like to see more of this. And so my dad actually used to race motorcycles out on the Bonneville Salt Flats, and, you know, and they had a photographer named Horst Rösler. He was a German photographer, and he actually made a book, and it was just full of these wonderful photographs of like salt crusted around the tires and on people's shoes. And, you know, so it's like, I'd like to see more of the detail of the car, you know, salt crust, or, you know, so I want to see more of the action. And I think, you know, for photojournalism, this would be a really good supporting image to like a main image. But cool subject.
Yeah. Lori Woodhall. This is unloading.
So I really like this photo a lot. I used to do commercial fishing in Alaska, so I know this, right? You know, it's just like, I like how it really captures this man, this fisherman in, you know, and he's in his element, you know, he's not even, he's moving the bucket over with the remote control. He's not even looking at the remote control, and he's just casually taking a step up, like he's about to grab onto the crab bucket and you know, pull it onto the dock. So there's a lot of really rich detail. I love his Thrasher sweatshirt, you know, Thrasher magazine sweatshirt, which is the skateboard magazine. It's all crusty. He probably bought it for $5 at a thrift store or something. But you've got all these great lines on the edges, and even though they run off and then there's really bright points, they are part of the image. And I still feel this, that it works. It's like a good controlled chaos, but you're really, your focus is really kept in the center. So I think it still really works.
Photographer is Mike Shea. Oh no, I missed another one.
Yeah.
Okay, we're just going to take a really quick break. I need to fix this right now instead of going on. Let me figure out. So everybody just talk to each other for 1 minute. You can unmute because I got to find out what happened to my PowerPoint show here.
Well, great photos, everyone.
So far.
Enjoying them. Yeah.
Yeah.
Who did the waterfall in the freezing cold? Who was that?
I think that was John Siebert.
Yeah, that was mine at Eagle Falls in, right there in Tahoe.
So you're out, I just imagine outdoors in these long exposures.
For a long time.
For a long time. That's what I thought.
That was last year's trip when me, Brian Dunbar, Mike Shea, I think, and with Josh
Cripps?
With Josh Miller.
Oh, okay.
Right, and did his little 1-day trip all around Tahoe, and we got the fog night, and then the next day, freezing cold, foggy morning, and then got up to the top of Incline Village.
That's awesome. How'd you protect your camera with that? Did you have any issues with fogging or anything?
No, just that I didn't realize it. This first time I'd been doing photography in the cold, but the batteries just went dead in like half an hour.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was amazing. It was like, so good thing we brought lots of batteries. That was the recommendation.
So one tip, if you're shooting in the cold for a while, so before you bring your camera back indoors, take your chip out and then put your camera in a plastic bag and then roll it up and then bring it into the house.
So that it
Ah.
stays cold? Is that the idea, Ellen? You're trying to keep it cold? No.
No. It's oh, I forget
Keep
this.
the moisture out.
Yeah.
Condensation.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. So, but yeah, no, like a friend of mine in Alaska, he, he'd go out and he'd shoot the Iditarod, and that's what he'd have to do every night when he came in.
So say it again, please. So
Yeah.
you're outside shooting in the freezing cold, and then
If you want your chip, to process because I usually it's like I want
the SD card. When you say the chip, the SD card.
SD card, take that out so that you have it. And then before you go into the house or get in your car, whatever, you put it in a plastic bag, or even if you have like a dry bag for like, if you go out kayaking, something like that, that'll keep the condensation out. And then allow it to come up to room temperature.
All right.
Take it out of the bag.
Thank you very much. Oh. All right. This is Safe. San Francisco Giants Candlestick Park, 1987.
All right. Well, the composition on this is just fabulous. I mean, you've got these really strong horizontal lines, like the player and his helmet. It's like everything is horizontal. And then you've got the baseman. Is that what I'm not very bright with baseball, but it's like the action is stopping like right with him, and it's really nicely placed on that 1/3 line. So you've got really great balance, and the composition really supports the message and the action. And so it's just really, really well done. So since it's from 87, it would be on film. So, and I love a little bit of film grain. It looks nice and tight. So so the focus on a space, I can't tell if it's a little bit soft or if it's just a scan from the film, but it's a really, really strong shot.
Okay, that's by Shelby Cohen.
Nice.
Now I want to just go back for 1 minute. This is the one we missed. It's called Jupiter and Saturn, and this is under night photography.
Okay. All right. So I looked at the metadata, and so it was a 500 millimeter lens that was used. And so, I mean, you can see Jupiter, and it looks like you can see like 4 of its moons, and then Saturn. So with this type of shot, it's like I'd want to see either go in really, be able to go in tighter with a longer lens, or pull it out more, or wait, or have it so you see more of like maybe like a landscape or something, give it a little, or, more of the night sky and give it more of a context. What you might even try with this is like maybe give it a vignette or bring the blue down. But, that's cool, cool getting it, you did what you could get, you got nice and sharp. So.
Okay, that was by Dave Connell. And now we are into the creative fantasy anything goes category.
All right.
This is Holiday Swirl.
All right. So I like that really rich, intense red, and then the complementary color green in the middle. So you got a nice color contrast going on there. And I really like the swirl effect because I think this is a poinsettia, and it just kind of, for me, this just kind of emulates how the holidays made me feel, where it's just this whirl. It's, you're getting sucked into this vortex, and the holidays, so I just think it's kind of a visual depiction of how the holidays can make some people feel. But I think it's a fun image, nice colors.
That's by Anne Westling. This is called The Last Delegate Descents.
So for me, this is an example of kind of taking an image that isn't quite complete, because you can see the frame, the top frame. It's like there was like where his hand was cut off, but then the frame underneath completes his hand. and then they kind of blend together a little bit. So you have these film negatives that have been layered and blended. And so you just have these different slices of time, that kind of are spliced together. And then you kind of see like the life of a photograph, or the kind of like what became before and what came after, and there's like a little hint that something happened in the frame next to it, and you don't know it happened. So I think it's interesting as both an object and as an image.
All right. And guess who that's by?
I don't know.
Ellen Davis.
Some hack, I don't know.
All right, here's our new category, manipulated but realistic. This is called Fun with Pumpkins.
Well, it is fun. I mean, it's very bright, poppy. It kind of reminds me like pop art. It almost, it's like, it also reminds me of like a screen print, like just before you put the black ink over it, and I'm just itching to put the black ink over it. But I like the colors, and there's some fun shapes, and you've got these organic twisting lines and then these curves, but then you have the the straight stems that kind of like bookend those. Yeah, what I might do to improve it, I think that, it's like with this bright yellowy orange part kind of on the front, I want to see like maybe a little more definition in that.
Okay.
But yeah, lots of fun.
That's by Lori Woodhull. This is called Beer Wagons.
All right. Well, this is kind of a nice like slice of life kind of a photograph. Got some very nice straight verticals, which when you're photographing buildings and architecture, that can be really hard to do. But very, very nice job with that. And I think this, and with this type of image, I feel like I'd want to see like somebody coming out of the door or tending to the plants. I also feel like I'd want to either see more room around the building, or kind of zoom in, for more detail, or maybe takes 10, 20 steps to the left, and maybe show more of like where that pumpkin patch sign is leading, because that's leading you right off the edge of the frame there.
Okay.
But, and why it's in this category, I'm betting it's probably sky replacement. That would be my guess.
The maker is Jimmy Marchio. This is Alaska in the Rain.
Well, it is definitely Alaska. But yeah, this is kind of another nice example of kind of a flattish image. There's not a lot of depth to it. But I think that really works for this, because that makes a really nice setting to put the bear in. And I'm assuming that's what has been modified about this. But you've got some really nice detail and colors in the mist, and the bear really fits in really quite well. There's like good separation from the background. The proportion is right. I mean, it even kind of looks a little bit damp. The only thing I would probably work on is down where his legs meet the grass. It's kind of hard to see in this. They're a little soft, and I would get like more like tips, grass tips, to give a little more detail on that, to kind of help him like really get that final detail.
The photographer is Ingrid Lockhart. Sandhill Crane Dance.
Sorry, that's my cat alarm. So I really liked this image. It's, has an oil painting effect. It's got some great textures in the background, like cracked oil. And it kind of reminds me of like a 19th century oil painting, from the Romantic era or the Hudson River School, because there's a lot of, emphasis on nature and emotion. But I really like the lighting on this, it's a very dramatic light, and it really heightens the color contrast, and and the eyes on these birds just really pop out, and that's what really draws you in. And I just love the expression, and I love the body, you know, how they relate to each other. It's like, I know the title is dancing, but they also look like they're, you know, they've got drama or they've got something to say to each other. So
that was by Kathy Triolo.
And can I jump in for just a second? This is an educational moment for our club. This category is manipulated but realistic.
Yeah.
And the pumpkins and the cranes were obviously manipulated, so they should have been in the other category. But we're all just learning this, so you know, it's great to see the images. But those would go in the other category, just so we can all learn this.
Are you saying they would go in creative?
Yes, because they were obviously manipulated.
Right. Oh, so you're saying this category, it can't even look like it's manipulated.
Right, that's the point of this category. The photos that are competing against each other will look like they were never manipulated to begin with.
Okay, good to know. I don't know that we ever got that detailed on this. So good to know. Thank you, Douglas. All right, black and white. Let's go. Potsherd.
All right. So I really like this subject, and I like how it's presented. You know, I like the clarity, you know, just how clear and sharp the fingerprints of the hand is, you know, and then he's got these great lines and textures that you can really see in his hand. And then they kind of mimic the pattern that's in the potsherd that was, you know, painted hundreds, thousands of years ago. And I just like you know, that connection of, you know, ancestors, and it reminds us of our place, kind of our place in time and in the world, you know, and with, you know, who we were. What I might do to improve this image is in the upper left-hand corner, I would probably darken that out so it's not light. And I'd probably slice off a little bit on the right edge, and then just give it a little bit more of a pop, you know, like brighten the highlights a little bit.
Okay, that was by Chris Scheller. This is Mobius Arch framing the Whitney Range.
All right, so this is, you know, a classic scene, and with a little bit, you know, a little bit of a different perspective. And I really appreciate that. You know, it's been about 5 years since I've been out there, but I know there's not, you know, not always a lot of room to move around. So, yeah, so the line on the right-hand side, I like how that kind of swoops up and kind of comes into the arch, and then that kind of moves around. What I might improve on this is, like, you know, give it a little bit more of a brighten the highlight, just a little bit more, give it a little bit more of a pop. And then I do find the rocks on the left-hand side, I find like they have a really heavy visual weight. And I don't really know what you could do about that. You can really clone it out, but I don't know. And it's hard, and I know you can't really move much further to the left either. Okay. But I mean, it's a great, you know, good image.
This is by George Pelpel. Natural Bridges Granary, or Granary. Sorry.
So this is when I first looked at it, you know, at first I thought it was like a piece of driftwood, and then I realized that it was rock. And I just really like, you know, how it just plays with texture and a sense of scale. And and I really appreciate there's, you know, got great diagonal lines, a lot of different points of contrast. There's the light and then the dark and then the light and the dark. So you just really get some really good contrast there. And the granary, it's like, I like that there's a hole there, and there's a little bit of a hole like kind of underneath on the right-hand side. And then there's a little hole in the background there. So you kind of have these repeating little cave holes. What I might do to improve is just give it a little more pop of contrast, brighten up the highlights a bit.
This is by Chris Scheller. Slot Canyon fan wall.
So I really like the abstract of this, and it just has some really beautiful shapes and lines to it. It's like it has some really good strong diagonals, you know, that kind of go to, you know, that draw your eye onto one point, but then And it has these other lines that'll kind of lead your eye up and down as well. You know, it's very cool. I like that you don't have much of a sense of scale. It can be huge, it can be little, and you're not sure, but I like that. What I might do to improve this one is also, you know, and of course this is also subjective, but I would give it a little bit more of a contrast, give it more, you know, bring the highlights up and give it a little more pop. Very nice.
This is by Mike Shea. Inside the Coliseum.
So I really like the repeating shapes of this kind of, and it almost has like, you know, it's like, this is kind of like a classic, you know, hallway scene, but I like how it turns. And so it kind of, it's like all these arches, you know, start from the left and then they go progressively wider. And it kind of, to me, it has like a nesting doll effect, you know, and I like that take. You know, and it's like, you can see the texture of the stone and the age. What I might do to improve this is maybe just like straighten it, the horizon, just a touch. And then the arches on the you know, at the very top, I would probably darken those down because it pulls my eye up a bit. And I might even get rid of that little black box down in the lower left. And then there's the white has a loss of detail there. And you could even you could take some other part of the photo and kind of you might be able to clone it in and give a little bit more detail in there. Very nice.
That was by Jerry Thomas. And we are on our last category, which is color. And this is Grand Prismatic Spring.
Well, the colors on this are just you know, they're really beautiful. I mean, they're really rich and saturated and lovely. And I think it's really interesting how they're the rainbow colors kind of in the mist and the Grand Prismatic Spring. It's like, I know when you see it, when you look at it, you know, from above, it actually does kind of have some rainbow color to it. So I think that's interesting that comes through. You know, maybe the sun hit it just right or something. But there's not a lot of sun. Anyway, but I like there's a leading line in the foreground that'll kind of draw you in. I like how you can see there's a lot of texture, like rough texture. And then that's contrasted with the smoothness of the clouds. And it's, you know, it's quite a lovely image. I might take just a shade a little bit off the bottom.
That's by Rick Ashelman. Past technology.
So I think this is a really interesting subject. I've never seen a typewriter quite like that with that column in the middle and all those, it's unusual and it's really interesting to look at and kind of look at the detail. This looks like it was probably taken up at Bodie, you know, where you gotta, you know, kind of shoot through the windows. So sometimes, you know, you're framing and your scope is a little bit limited. But I'd actually really those cubbies in the back are great, but there's room at the top where you can actually tilt the camera. You know, I'd like to have the camera tilted down a little bit. So you know, maybe to the very top of the cubbies, but I want to see more of the detail of this typewriter, you know, maybe, you know, a little bit to the right, but I mean, it's a really interesting subject and very cool.
This photo by Patricia Leviton. This is Ducks, Reeds, and Reflections.
So I like the abstract nature of this. I like the color contrast and, you know, between, you've got the red, you know, reddish orange, and then you've got the blue. So, you know, I think what I'm really most drawn to in this image, is like the reflection and kind of the bottom half. I think it'd be really make it, you know, it's so abstract and it has all these really interesting shapes. You know, but the ducks are kind of fun to you know, see their, you know, in their little mysterious world, but you know, sometimes, but with the ducks, I'm not sure where to really let my eye rest with them. Doesn't really quite draw, but yeah, I would really maybe like focus in on the abstract parts of it and really kind of go with that. But yeah, no, I like this.
This is by Ann Wessling. And this is Crystal Eyes.
Oh, so I mean, you were just immediately drawn into this sassy kitty's, into his eyes. I'm assuming it's a boy cat, but whatever. But yeah, he has these absolutely beautiful eyes, and it looks like he's, got personality. He's got a lot to say, so you kind of feel a connection with him. I really like how he's got these pretty blue eyes that are, cool color that contrast with the warmth of, of his fur. And and I think the composition on this is good. You've got his, yeah, and I like how the whiskers kind of feather out into the darkness. And yeah, no, nice job.
And that is by Anna Woodhull. And guess what? It's the end of this